stream button.
And good evening. So let's meet the candidates who have qualified and chosen to be on this stage tonight. They are positioned by the order they rank in the polls, with the highest polling candidate in the middle.
Welcome to the stream.
Stage, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
We're gonna pause this for a minute. Everybody knows who these guys are. That's Mr. Ron, Mr. Vivek. So this is a special one we're bringing to you.
Better known as Junior.
Live from the Dark Theater.
And then there's Nikki, the pragmatist Haley. Tim, why the fuck is he there? Actually, no, he's not.
And we're not going to have this muted the entire time.
Again, you know who these people are.
Yeah, exactly. So we just wanted to have a little introduction and
Mike, Jesus saves Pence.
Running a little late. So
and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
This is why the fuck is he there?
Questions on a wide variety of issues important to primary
voters.
His, candidates get 1 minute to answer and 30 seconds to respond if singled out. When their time runs out, we'll all hear this.
Crap.
We have a lot of ground to cover, so please keep it civilized.
Can you barely hear us because of the... Yeah.
We are in this spacious, sunny place tonight, designed to reflect the very nature and character of Ronald Reagan. It's a place that makes you proud to be an American. Yet today our nation is drowning in division and incivility.
Voters
but what about us?
dread the 2024 election and find politics exhausting. 2 in 3 Americans think the country is on the wrong track.
Okay.
And 3 in 4 say the economy is not in good shape.
Prices are up 18% since 2020. More than half of the U.S. population has little access to childcare. 85% of Americans say their personal finances are a source of stress.
Americans want to believe a leader who says, "You can follow me. I've got you. Don't worry."
How's the mix
President Biden is trying to do that with Bidenomics.
And yesterday, he joined the picket lines where auto workers are demanding more wages and job security. Senator Scott, you recently reacted by praising Ronald Reagan for firing air traffic controllers in the 1980s, saying, "You strike, you're fired."
We still got an echo.
Would you fire thousands of striking auto workers today, Senator?
Obviously, the President of the United States cannot fire anybody in the private sector. However, we should look back at the first bill in Congress under Joe Biden. The first bill had $86 billion for the union pensions because they continue to overpromise yet underdeliver. One of the challenges that we have in the current negotiations is that they want 4-day French work weeks, but more money. They want more benefits, working fewer hours. That is simply not going to stand. I sat in a finance committee hearing when a widow came before the committee who was promised pensions from the unions, $4,000 a month. Unfortunately, it had been cut to $1,000 a month. We must make sure that we honor the commitments that we make, and one of the ways that we do that, do not overpromise and then underdeliver and leave the taxpayers on the hook. I'll say this, Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border, working to close our southern border because it is unsafe, wide open, and insecure, leading to the deaths of 70,000 Americans in the last 12 months because of fentanyl.
Technically is wide open.
Devastating. Every county in America is now a border county because fentanyl has devastated Americans in every single state. I will also say 6 million illegal crossings since Joe Biden has taken office. And he eliminated Title 42. The one thing he should do is finish the wall, reinstate Title 42, and get the job done.
And get the job done.
That we are going to have a lot of questions on the border and immigration, but in the meantime, we do want to talk about the economy and jobs, and especially want to talk about this strike for just a moment more. Mr. Ramaswamy, you've said you really empathize with the strikers. You're standing next to Senator Scott, and do you agree with what he said, or do you think he's wrong?
I agree with some of what he said, for sure. I like the spirit of it. I'll say that I don't have a lot of patience for the union bosses. I think that's where he and I actually have a common view. I do have a lot of sympathy for the workers, however. People are going through real hardship in this country. I've been through hardship growing up. My father stared down layoffs at GE under Jack Welch's tenure at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio. My mom had to work overtime in nursing homes in Southwest Ohio to make ends meet and pay off our home loan. So I understand that hardship is not a choice.
I think so.
But victimhood is a choice, and we choose to be victorious in the United States of America. You know what, if I was giving advice to those workers, I would say go picket in front of the White House in Washington, D.C. That's really where the protest needs to be. Disastrous economic policies
the last person that did
driven
that
up
is
prices, that have driven up interest rates and
insurrection.
mortgage rates. At the same time, wages remaining stagnant. What we need is to
No, that's not what I mean. He's basically he's saying he's pro-union without saying he's pro-union.
deliver economic growth in this country, unlock American energy, drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy, put people back to work by no longer paying them more money to stay at home, stabilize the U.S. dollar itself, and rescind a majority of those unconstitutional federal regulations that are hampering our economy. That is how we unleash American exceptionalism. And that's not a Democratic vision or a Republican vision. That is an American vision that we embrace economic growth, and capitalism is still the best system known to man to lift us up from poverty.
Amen.
And we should not apologize for it. That's what it means to be an American.
Amen to that. Real quick, I just want to let everyone who's watching the stream know, if you're watching this after the fact, sorry. If us pausing annoys you, just let us know. But what we don't want to do...
We know it does, but it's okay.
Well, no, but we don't want to talk over them. And we can assume that you're watching this for the debate, and we're going to try not to like go on long-ass debates when it's paused. But I also don't want to talk over what they're saying because you're watching this to watch the debate. So if it annoys you, just let us know. If not, we'll
try to wait till the commercials.
Together, the CEOs of General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis make 336 times the number of number of rank-and-file workers. That's just part of a wider income inequality trend in the country. The richest 1% now controls 1/5 of all income. Vice President Pence,
I don't know, I like
last week you said you side with American workers, but you also support how these companies operate. Which is it?
Well, thank you for the question. I want to thank Univision and Fox Business for assembling such a wonderful forum. Look, I do disagree with something Tim Scott just said. Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the unemployment line. I mean, look, I'm from the second leading manufacturing state in the country per capita. I was governor of the state of Indiana. We brought 12,000 factories back to America during our administration. I know something about manufacturing. And I got to tell you, while the union bosses are talking about class warfare and talking about disparity in wages, I have to tell you, I really believe what's driving that is Bidenomics has failed. Wages are not keeping up with inflation. Auto workers and all American workers are feeling it, and families are struggling in this economy. And Joe Biden's Green New Deal agenda is good for Beijing and bad for Detroit. We ought to repeal the Green New Deal, get rid of the mandates and subsidies that are driving American gasoline automotive manufacturing into the graveyard. And beyond that also, as President of the United States, I'll be standing with workers all across America, and I'll be standing for the right to work of every American to join a union or not join a union as they decide.
Senator Scott, you were mentioned. Will you care to respond?
There's no doubt that Joe Biden needs to be fired. That's why I'm running for president. I look forward to being the next president of the United States. I will also say, I know America can do for anyone what she's done for me. It's why we're focusing on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting the America we all love. Growing up in a single-parent household, I wondered if the American dream would work for a kid in the inner city. I've got good news for every single child. Whether you're in the inner cities of Chicago or the rural parts of Iowa, America and the dream, it is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. God bless these United States of America.
God blesses everyone.
God bless us, everyone.
Biden showed up on that picket line, but why are those workers actually there? It's because of all of the spending that he has pushed through in the economy that's raised the inflation. So when you look at the fact that we are paying higher gas prices, higher grocery prices, $7,000 more a year for families, what we need to do is, I came out with an economic plan, eliminate the gas and diesel tax so that they have more money in their pocket. Let's focus on going after middle America and cutting taxes for middle America and collapsing those brackets. Let's get rid of unfair distortions like the state and local tax that they give to wealthy people in blue states and paid by red states. And let's make sure we make the small business taxes permanent. They only made those temporary. They made the corporate taxes permanent. Let's focus on what it takes to get more cash in the pockets of workers. That's when we'll be able to deal with strikes like this, not sitting on a picket line like Joe Biden is.
Thank you, Governor Haley. We have other questions to get to about economy. Allow me to.
I just have to. I'm sorry.
They tried that.
I'm sorry. I have to jump in.
They tried to get.
We're missing the point, and every other network is missing the point. The reason why people are striking in Detroit is because Joe Biden's interference with capital markets and with free markets. The subsidies, we're subsidizing the automakers, and we're subsidizing the cars, and a particular kind of car, not every car. We're subsidizing electric vehicles. And when you decide that we're going to take all of your taxpayer monies, take $1 billion, subsidize a certain type of vehicle, and the batteries come from China. China controls 85% of the rare earth minerals. They're called rare earth because they're measured in parts per million. China is moving 100,000 pounds of earth in Indonesia, in Africa. They're literally destroying the planet so that they can make a battery that's in a car subsidized here. That's why they're striking, because they need 2/3 less workers to build an electric car. Joe Biden,
they're
this
striking because they're using children.
No, they're striking because they want more money and fewer hours. That's
the Chinese.
UAW. Question to Governor Christie. The government will shut down if Congress does not reach a deal by the end of this week. Vice President Pence warns that politics of, quote, Trump's populist proteges, like Mr. Ramaswamy, are a road to ruin for the GOP.
Spicy.
If the government shuts down, should voters blame populist Republicans?
Voters should blame everybody who's in Washington, D.C. They get sent down there to do the job, and they've been failing at doing the job for a very long time. And let's be honest about this with the voters. You know, during the Trump administration, they added $7 trillion in national debt. And now the Biden administration has put another $5 trillion on and counting. They have failed, and they're in the spot they're in now because none of them are willing to tell the truth. None of them are willing to take on the difficult issues. They just want to keep kicking the can down the road. And the inflation that Nikki spoke about is absolutely right, and it's caused by government spending. And that's why people all across this country are suffering tonight. And yet we don't get any answers because Joe Biden hides in his basement and won't answer as to why he's raising the debt the way he's done. And Donald Trump hides behind the walls of his golf clubs and won't show up here to answer questions like all the rest of us are up here to answer. He put $7 trillion on the debt. He should be in this room to answer those questions for the people you talk about who are suffering.
So
and
when
if the government closes, it's the blame. It is to the blame of everyone in Washington, D.C. who failed to do their job and just plays to the grandstand.
The next question is for Governor DeSantis.
There was other people running at the time. No one, they didn't want to debate.
Can we please respect the time?
Other Democrats running at the time.
Governor DeSantis, you haven't spoken. Please.
The people in Washington are shutting down the American dream with their reckless behavior. They borrowed, they printed, they spent, and now you're paying more for everything. They are the reason for that. They have shut down our national sovereignty by allowing our border to be wide open. So please spare me the crocodile tears for these people. They need to change what's going on. And where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership. And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He owes it to you to defend his record where they added $7.8 trillion to the debt. That set the stage for the inflation that we have now. I can tell you this, as governor of Florida, we cut taxes, we ran surpluses, we've paid down over 25% of our state debt, and I vetoed wasteful spending when it came to my desk. And as your president, when they send me a bloating spending bill that's going to cause your prices to go up, I'm going to take out this veto pen and I'm going to send it right back to them.
Ilya, you mentioned me in the question. I just want to address
I'm going to go to Senator Scott, but I have a question that is on the minds of a lot of moms and dads and Americans, and I know that you've been thinking about it because child care costs, they are up. They're topping $10,000 per month. Some families are spending up to half of their income on child care, and they're having to decide, is it worth it for me to work, or does it not make sense for me financially? In 3 days, the billions of dollars in pandemic-era funding is going to end, and 70,000 daycares could close. So you had an effort to broaden eligibility for child care assistance. That fell apart last year. And for the moms and dads out there who are worried, what can you tell them if you weren't able to get it through the Congress? How could you do it as president?
Certainly one of the things I did as a member of Congress was to make sure that we protected the Head Start programs around the country, giving people the opportunity to pick and choose the place that they send their children. The challenges that we see today under the Biden administration is that the cost for daycare has gone over $15,000 per child. In the Build Back Broker plan, he called it the Build Back Better plan, it was going up to $29,000. The way we fix that problem is to make sure that we actually cut taxes and give more Americans their money back. When I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we actually lowered a single mother's taxes by 70% on the federal level. For dual income households by 60%. Then we went a step further. We doubled the child tax credit and made it refundable. By doing that, more parents had more resources to make the decisions how to take care of their family. The one thing we should do is let the American people keep their...
So that 70%, I guarantee you, I'll bet money on this, they had one person that they were able to cut their taxes by 70%. And that's why he's saying up to political trick.
Their money. When that happens, the greatest opportunities rise from the ashes.
Okay, I'm going to give you 15 seconds. Go ahead, and then we're going to the border.
Ilya mischaracterized a part of my view. I think this artificial division is unhelpful in our party. The real divide is not between the Republicans on this stage. And in the Reagan Library, I want to say these are good people on this stage. The real divide is between the majority of us in this country who love the United States of America and share our founding ideals. Free speech, meritocracy, the idea you get ahead in this country, not in the color of your skin, but on the content of your character, and the fringe minority in the Democrat Party that has a chokehold over that party. That's the real divide. So this
talks about Pence and having speeches already made up.
Yeah, I was going to say,
that sounds pretty damn good for off the cuff.
Not only that, he's saying the divide.
I mean, it was a good speech.
We have all these questions. We're going to get to you. We're going to come back to you. There's a lot of time.
We're about child care, and nobody answered the question. In North Dakota, we knew that the cliff was coming. We knew that there was going to be millions of people without it. And so guess what? We planned. When we passed legislation because child care.
We will get you some questions, but you're going to have to let us move on. We are going to the border next.
Child care is workforce infrastructure.
And I haven't been given a chance to respond.
In 1984, President Ronald Reagan said the following.
The idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally.
2 years later, President Reagan granted amnesty to nearly 3 million immigrants, something no Democrat or Republican president has done since. Governor Christie, as governor of a non-border state in 2010, you supported a path to citizenship. But when you ran for president in 2016, you flipped, saying immigrants should be tracked like FedEx packages. Where do you stand now on a path to citizenship for 11 million of undocumented immigrants?
Well, the problem is that since no one has done anything since we first had this discussion 13 years ago, we're not in a position to be able to do any of that anymore. What we have to do now is first treat this like the law enforcement problem it is. Our laws are being broken every day at the southern border, every day.
Easier than
and Joe Biden and his crew is doing nothing about enforcing that law. They are letting it go. And by the way, they announced during the presidential race they were going to let it go. And we need to have a president who acts like I did as governor, enforce the law first and foremost. And that means what I'll do on day one is sign an executive order to send the National Guard to partner with Customs and Border Patrol to make sure that we stop the flow of fentanyl over the border, but also to make sure that we send a much different message. We want you here in this country to fill the 6 million vacant jobs we have, but only if you come here to follow the law and only if you come here legally. If you come here illegally, we will apprehend you and we will send you back across the border from which you came. And the fact is that until we set a law and order agenda in this country, not only now but in the future, we won't be able to continue this. And I'll tell you this:
once he came,
Donald Trump failed on this as well.
He
said he was going to build a wall across the whole border. He built 52 miles of wall and said Mexico would pay for it. Guess what? I think if Mexico knew that he was only going to build 52 miles, they might have paid for the 52 miles.
Thank you, Governor.
All right, Governor Haley. Most illegal immigrants are coming from countries south of the border. You've seen the Fox News drone. It's captured this steady stream of people coming into the country on a daily basis. In fact, I believe we have a live picture of it tonight. That is happening right now, live. In the last decade, the U.S. has spent nearly $55 billion to address the root causes of migration. But crime, poverty, and corruption, they persist, and the number of migrants is only growing. Are we wasting our money?
Well, what happens is when Joe Biden waved the green flag, it told everybody to come. And now we've seen 6 million people cross the border. We've had more fentanyl that have killed Americans in the Iraq, Vietnam, or Afghanistan wars combined. We need to make sure that we are a country of laws. The second we stop being a country of laws, we give up everything this country was founded on. So we have to secure the border. The way we do that is, first of all, defund sanctuary cities. You see what's happening in Philadelphia right now. It's got to stop. We need to make sure we put 25,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. I spent 400 miles down that border, and I'm telling you, Border Patrol agents aren't allowed to do their job. Let's go back to remain in Mexico policy. Instead of catch and release, let's go to catch and deport.
What about what about the aid that federal taxpayers are paying to deal with the root causes? It's not working?
The only aid that we should be spending right now is to secure the border, the southern border, the northern border, period. We need to keep Americans safe, and right now Americans are not safe. Only when we fix the immigration system, only when we get the border secure, should we ever look at putting any more money into this. Our money should be about keeping Americans safe. We're not doing that. Joe Biden's not doing that. And you mentioned Congress and shutting down government. I'll make it clear. We have to change the budget process in 4 years. In 40 years, Congress has only delivered a budget on time 4 times in 40 years. If they don't keep the government open, they should not get paid. No pay, no budget. That's the way.
Finally, no, but you can't do that constitutionally. Everybody says it, but you can't do it.
Well, if you don't come to an agreement, how do you get around it?
They're not funded
just last year. They signed strategic partnerships with 7 countries, including Mexico. And China's military ties to the region now include arms sales and training exercises. Are you comfortable with China deepening ties with our southern neighbors?
Of course not. And the reason why we're in this mess is because elites in D.C. for far too long have chosen surrender over strength when it comes to the CCP. Some people in our country got rich, our industrial base got hollowed out, and they have been able to build the second most powerful military in the entire world. We need a totally new approach to China. We are going to have real hard power in the Indo-Pacific, like Reagan, to deter their ambitions. We're going to have economic independence from China, where we're decoupling our economy, and we are going to go after the cultural power they have in this country. As governor of Florida, I banned the CCP from buying land in our state. We should do that all across these United States.
Dude, I'm sorry, but
them in our universities.
In this country, you should not be able to buy freaking land here. Like, I'm sorry. If you don't have like citizenship, like you can't have the whole CCP buying land. Like that doesn't sound very free market to me. Yeah, sure, it's free market within the United States. Play.
We shouldn't have Confucius institutes. So you see a country in decline, our power's in decline. China's going to surpass us this decade, and if they do that, that's going to affect every single American household. As your president, I am not going to let that happen. I'm going to reverse this country's decline. We are going to choose strength, not surrender when it comes to the CCP.
Dude, China is on a downfall when it comes to population, so they're not going to
Under Joe Biden, we are a country in retreat.
You propose, quote, universal deportation for all undocumented immigrants and their children, even if the children are citizens of the United States. Under what legal premise would you expel U.S. citizens?
So the first thing I want to say is I agree with everything the Republicans on the stage are on the right side of this issue. Militarize the southern border, stop funding sanctuary cities, and end foreign aid to Mexico and Central America to end the incentives to come across. But I do go a step further. You're right about that, Ilya. I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country. Now, the left will howl about the Constitution and the 14th Amendment. The difference between me and them is I've actually read the 14th Amendment. What it says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the laws and jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So nobody believes that the kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will disagree with me on that. Well, if the kid of a Mexican diplomat doesn't enjoy birthright citizenship, then neither does the kid of an illegal migrant who broke the law to come here. And as the father of two sons, it is hard for me to look them in the eye and say, you have to follow the law when our own government fails to follow its own laws. That's how we really go the distance and solve this problem and restore the rule of law in the United States of America, because that is part of what it even means to be an American.
Senator Scott, you oppose ending birthright
that was true, though.
He's wrong.
I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about his
no doubt
sentiment.
the fact that when you think of the Constitution and the 14th Amendment, it was certainly written as it relates to slavery, not as it relates to illegal immigration. It's been applied to illegal immigration. So the challenge that we face is, in fact, one that has to do with whether or not the people that come here are under the jurisdiction of our laws. And frankly, if you come here illegally, you are not. Now, surviving a Supreme Court argument is something I can't tell you. But from a perspective of the Constitution, I think it's simple that clearly it was designed for slavery and not for illegal immigration. I'll go one step further, though. When we have a conversation about the things that are happening on this stage, we think about the fact that Vivek just said we were all good people, and I appreciate that, because last debate he said we were all bought and paid for. And I thought about that for a little while and said, you know, I can't imagine how you could say that knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well. It's not nonsense.
So look, here's what I want to respond. These are good people.
You got the allegation.
Tainted by a broken system, and it's not the fault of anybody who's involved.
Some of us are tainted.
Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting. While I'm speaking.
Well, you said
You
can't be on both sides.
Gentlemen, you'll have your turn.
One of the challenges we should have
Please focus on the issues that matter. We know we did business in China. Everybody knows that.
If I may address,
focus on holding Joe Biden accountable. That's what we need to be focused on.
I actually agree with
Boy,
Ron
DeSantis.
DeSantis.
Finally.
No one can understand
Exactly.
your message.
So if I may, I agree with Ron DeSantis on China. When every other CEO expanded into the Chinese market, you know what I did with my first company? We opened a subsidiary in China. But you know what I did that was different than every other company? We got the hell out of there. And when I started my next company, Strive, that's years ago.
2023.
Right when I started my next company, Strive, to compete against BlackRock, excuse me, to compete against BlackRock, I made a commitment that we would never do business in China. And I will say something.
I think you have more than time to explain your point.
Well, if I was interrupted by a lot of people here, and I want to be respectful because I believe these are good people,
but
I do not believe in these. We're sitting here in the Reagan Library.
Yes, I wish you
in
did
the
not
honor of Ronald Reagan's library, if I may. From one admirer of Ronald Reagan to another. From one admirer of Reagan to another, we cannot sit here and violate Reagan's 11th.
I mean, if he would shut up and let Vivek talk, because I mean, isn't it Vivek's
What's
time?
going on?
It is.
Hit
him.
About their record.
Shut the mic off.
Well, now we're just going to talk over
And
them.
the right answer is we need to declare independence from China, and I will see that through.
People make me have bubble guts.
In 2017, the Trump-Pence administration canceled DACA, which put the legal status of 600,000 Dreamers in the hands of the courts. Dreamers work and they pay taxes. As president, if the Supreme Court ends DACA, would you work with Congress to reach a permanent solution for Dreamers?
Well, first, let me say I'm glad Vivek pulled out of his business deal in 2018 in China. That must have been about the time you decided to start voting in presidential elections. So we're nice to have you participating in elections. So let me speak to this issue. Number one, I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy with the Mexican government. We used economic power to bring the Mexican government to the table. We built hundreds of miles of border wall, and despite what's said here today, we reduced illegal immigration and asylum abuse by 90%. And as President of the United States, I can do it again.
Doubtful.
And the truth is we need to fix a broken immigration system, and I'll do that as well. But first and foremost, a nation without borders is not a nation. And we have to secure the southern border of the United States of America. I know how to do it, and we will do it again. Let me say one other thing about China.
Vice
Let me say
President,
one other thing about China.
would you negotiate with Congress to give a solution to the problem that Dreamers have right now? They are on a limbo.
Well, let me tell you, I served in Congress for 12 years, although it seemed longer. But, you know, something I've done different than everybody on this stage is I've actually secured reform in Congress. You know, Ron, you talk a really good game about cutting spending, but you've increased spending in Florida by 30%. When I was a member of Congress in 2006, right after Hurricane Katrina, Dana, you remember it, we stood our ground. I led House conservatives. We cut $100 billion out of the federal budget. It can be done, but as I said in the last debate, I'll say again, this is no time for on-the-job training.
Yeah, and
I'm
how
be
was
ready
the relief
on
for
day
Katrina?
one to get Congress to step up, secure the southern border of the United States, build a military-fitted.
This is the same administration that almost got in trouble because the contractors they hired for relief down there delayed their response because it was going to cost less fuel to wait till the next day to ship out instead of being idle and waiting. So not exactly a fantastic platform to run on there.
To our times, and we're going to get spending in Washington, D.C. under control once and for all.
On the other side of this break, and I propose to go to a break. How will these candidates make America safer as rising crime plagues our cities? Debate night continues in moments.
Wow, okay.
Do you trust our government and where the economy is heading? Does the thought of losing your hard-earned retirement savings to DC's reckless spending scare the heck out of you?
Give credit where
well, you're not alone.
Due.
Smart Americans are taking action while they still can by reaching out to Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped concerned Americans protect their futures by moving part of an existing IRA or 401k into a physical gold IRA. Because when things are a mess, like right now, Americans turn to gold. With an A+ rating,
Okay, I just muted it on the computer. Yeah, so we figured out how to mute it now. Yeah, so there's so much. So, like, first of all, Vivek is dead wrong about the 14th Amendment because the whole point of the 14th Amendment was, well, the whole point of the 14th Amendment was to make recently freed slave citizens. But yeah, so let's look at the text of the 14th Amendment real quick because I had it pulled up. Section 1, which is the part he was talking about, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which means they're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States because they are here, much like it's not like if you're not a citizen, you're not under the jurisdiction of the United States because non-citizens, believe it or not, can be convicted of crimes. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Therefore, you know, and that calls into question some of what Vivek has said before about, you know, like, well, I've actually read it. Well, you may have read it, but I don't think you understood it, bro. You know, in order to do what you're talking about doing, ending naturalized, or what did he call it, birth citizenship, that requires amending the Constitution. That's not... And, okay, let's say for a second Vivek is right. You can't, as president, you can't just go in and just alter the Constitution or even interpret the Constitution. That's not your job. That's the job of the Supreme Court. And don't you think that by now, if anyone, literally anyone, agreed with you about the 14th Amendment not meaning that, don't you think the Supreme Court, which has record conservatives on the bench, don't you think that they would have, you know, done a ruling by now? I mean, come on, Vivek. And then the fact that he said with a straight face that, you know, that's not true. I didn't say we were divided. Yes, you did. That's what I'm talking about. Vivek might be the most two-faced candidate up there. And don't get me wrong, I liked the guy. Liked him less after the first debate. But, I mean, dude's just wrong. And Christie, while we're talking about immigration, let's talk about Chris Christie. In the last debate, he literally said, and he kind of touched on it here, but in the last debate, he came out and said, I will, you know, mobilize ICE to, you know, hunt them. I don't know if he said hunt them down, but I think he did say hunt them down and send them back. That's going to cost more money than just naturalizing them. And I wish somebody would bring that up. Hey, while you walk by, you want to unmute it?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Just with the mouse. It's in front here.
How do you unmute it?
There, just click the speaker button.
Oh, that makes sense.
Each other, that means a fewer questions you're going to get. Okay, so we want to talk about crime. This has been a horrendous problem in our country. The Fox News and others have been covering it. Governor Christie, crime in major cities is striking fear into the hearts of Americans. Just last night, looters took over the streets of Philadelphia. You said in the last debate that you would use U.S. attorneys to prosecute crimes. Local prosecutors
won't. Isn't that the same video of them showing cops actually
and they could not
beating the
handle
crap
all
out
of the lawlessness, the shoplifting, all the carjackings, the armed robberies. They're all surging. Progressive prosecutors were elected by their constituents, and they can't be fired by a president. So what would you do to end the revolving door of criminality?
Well, look, Dana, I'm the only one on this stage who's done it. For 7 years, I ran the 5th largest office in this country.
That's not true.
At the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey. And we set records for the number of prosecutions that we brought that still have not been broken. And the reason was that we went after the crime that was affecting people's lives. And as president, I will appoint an attorney general and instruct that attorney general that you are to put all the resources that are necessary to bring our cities back under control. The fact is, they will be stretched. There's no doubt about that, but that's what they take the job for, because they love the idea of enforcing the law. We've got to bring law and order back to this country. And not just in our cities, but we need law and order back everywhere. We need law and order back in our suburbs. People are threatened there. We need it in our rural areas. People feel threatened there. And we need it in Washington, D.C. also. And Donald Trump should be here to answer for that, but he's not. And I want to look at that camera right now and tell you, Donald, I know you're watching. You can't help yourself. I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here tonight, not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record.
That's true.
You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
All right. I want to ask Governor DeSantis, you fired
a
couple of prosecutors in your state, but as governor, as president, you would not have the ability to do that. How do you think about dealing with the root causes of crime, especially this revolving door?
Wrong.
The criminals, they just get out and come back and commit another crime.
Well, the crime in these cities is one of the strongest signs of the decaying of America. We can't be successful as a country if people aren't even safe to live in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco. Just being in Southern California over the last couple of days, my wife and I have met 3 people who have been mugged on the street, and that would have never happened 10 or 20 years ago. In Florida, we back the blue. We support the men and women of law enforcement. They are keeping us safe. We have a 50-year low in the crime rate. And yes, when I had 2 progressive prosecutors that weren't following the law in Florida, I removed them from their post, and the people of Florida are safer as a result of it. As president, I will use the Justice Department to bring civil rights cases against all of those left-wing Soros-funded prosecutors. We're not going to let them get away with it anymore. We want to reverse this country's decline. We need to choose law and order over rioting and disorder.
And we touched on
related subject,
the Florida crime wave,
Governor
which
Haley,
DeSantis can't take total credit for, but it's continued.
Retirements are up. Recruitment is in the tank, and morale is at a record low. 3 years ago, you signed a pledge to support law enforcement. Now, pledges are a nice idea, but what's your actual plan to get more police on our streets?
Well, and I actually did it in South Carolina, too. You know, what we knew in South Carolina was you take care of those who take care of you. We have to start taking care of law enforcement, but it's not just taking care of them with words. It's making sure that you also follow through on what they do. Right now, we have a lot of stolen guns on the street. Well, these law enforcement officers, they arrest these people, and then they go and they're let out the very next day. So law enforcement feels like no one has their back. We have to start prosecuting according to the law. We have to make sure we have the backs of law enforcement, and we have to make sure that we're a country of law and order. But I want to go back to China because I don't think we spent enough time on that. Right now, we have to look at what government's doing to hurt us against China, too. You have a company, U.S. Antibiotics, that produces amoxicillin, the #1 antibiotic that we need. And right now, there is a company in Bristol, Tennessee, that produces that. Yet our federal government only gets it from China. We need to be focusing on companies that produce in America and supporting those companies that produce in America, not companies that are helping China.
Governor, we will be talking foreign policy later.
Yeah, Nikki woke up today and decided to spit facts.
Stuart, we're going to stay in the topic of crime because it affects all of us.
Everybody else.
Governor Burgum, for the first time ever, a Univision poll found that mass shootings and gun safety are one of the most important issues for Latino voters. Mental health concerns are not unique to the United States, but gun violence is. What is your specific plan to curb gun violence?
He looks like a meme.
I think he had an
first we need to understand is I think that the liberal left seems to be just completely bent on prosecuting law-abiding citizens that are gun owners, because every solution they have to this is take away the Second Amendment rights of Americans, and somehow that's going to solve the problem. But all these cities that we're talking about that he showed the videos of tonight, they have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. So we know that that's not what's working. What we have to do is get back to the core issues about the family. We have to get back to behavioral health and mental health. We've got to get back to actually enforcing the laws these people talked about, and like we've done in North Dakota, where we've got the goal and we're on the track to being the most military-friendly state in the nation. We've got the most military and the most support of what we're doing in terms of law enforcement, because the morale is down because we've been defunding the police, because they've been attacked in the press. The police have become the bad guys when they're the one. There's all these jobs available in America. Why would you be a policeman if people don't even respect them? Every time I see a policeman, the first thing I say is thank you, and so does everybody else in my family and most of the people in our state, because they know we have to respect the people that are out there defending us every single day.
Can I answer the
Eyebrows is right.
So one of the things I've talked about when it comes to police, I won't take too long, I promise, but I don't want to talk over them, is like if I were in charge of, like if I were elected governor of a state, first thing I do, state police, is I go through instant pay raise for everyone. But along with that pay raise, standards go up.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't meet those standards, you're gone. Shit.
Ramaswamy, according to Customs and Border Protection, about 90% of fentanyl is seized at official border crossings, and 57% of the smugglers are U.S. citizens. How would you stop fentanyl brought into the country, mostly by U.S. citizens, through ports of entry?
There's two sides to this, and we have to be very honest about it. One is we do have to seal that southern border. Building the wall is not enough. They're building cartel-financed tunnels underneath that wall. Semi-trucks can drive through them. We have to use our own military to seal the Swiss cheese of a southern border. But we also have to be honest. There's a demand-side problem in this country, too, a mental health epidemic. I met family in Iowa. two parents, Kathy and Derek. They lost their son, Sebastian, 17 years old. He bought Percocet on Snapchat, and then he died. Why did he die? Because it was laced with fentanyl. That is closer to bioterrorism, not a drug overdose. That is poisoning. So it is our job to make sure that never happens. But it's also our job to make sure that 17-year-olds don't turn to Percocet via Snapchat. We have to bring back mental health care in this country, not with pump and pharmaceuticals, but with faith-based approaches that restore purpose and meaning in the next generation of Americans. Many of them are getting it through social media. And this isn't a Republican point or a Democrat point, but if you're 16 years old or under, you should not be using an addictive social media product, period. This is something that we can both agree on, and we can revive both the mental health of this country while stopping the fentanyl epidemic that will kill more people this year than who died on 9/11, and I refuse to be a passive bystander sitting in the White House like the hollowed-out husk of a current president we have. We will step up and address this problem to stand for Americans and our children.
I don't think any kids should be on anyway.
16-year-olds?
Everything he said, I agree with. That is why, as Commander-in-Chief, I'm going to use the U.S. military to go after the Mexican drug cartels.
Wrong.
They are killing our people. And the stories that I've seen in Florida, we had an infant, 18 months. Parents rented an Airbnb. And apparently the people that had rented it before were using drugs. The infant was crawling, the toddler was crawling on the carpet and ingested fentanyl residue and died.
They didn't clean.
Are we just going to sit here and let this happen, this carnage happen in our country? I am not going to do that. So I guarantee you on day one, this border is going to be a day one issue for me as president. We're going to declare it a national emergency. Yes, we'll build the wall. We'll do remain in Mexico. But those Mexican drug cartels are going to be treated like the foreign terrorists.
Well, hey, buddy, if Airbnb is such an issue, why don't you get on some legislation for it in Florida? Because I've stated places in Florida.
Just last month, Vice President Pence, you said if elected, you would repeal all Obamacare mandates. However, you also made that same promise in 2016. And at that time, Trump-Pence had congressional majorities for at least the first 2 years, and you did not deliver on that promise. So Obamacare, right now, it is more popular than ever.
Oh, no, it is
Why
not.
should Americans trust you, if you become president, to fix that, or is Obamacare here to stay?
Well, first let me speak to the mass shootings issue, and then I'll answer that question. It's an important one, Dana.
Oh, here he goes.
Look, I'm someone that believes that justice delayed is justice denied. And as a father of three, as a grandfather of three beautiful little girls, I am sick and tired of these mass shootings happening in the United States of America. And if I'm president of the United States, I'm going to go to the Congress of the United States, and we're going to pass a federal expedited death penalty for anyone involved in a mass shooting so that they will meet their fate in months, not years. It is unconscionable.
They usually kill themselves.
The Parkland shooter, Ron, is actually going to spend the rest of his life behind bars in Florida. That's not justice. We have to mete out justice and send a message to these would-be killers that you are not going to live out your days behind bars. You're going to meet justice in this system.
But does that mean Obamacare is here to stay?
Well, thank you for reiterating the question, because I'd love to answer it. Look, I think it's one of the choices here. You know, my former running mate, Donald Trump, actually has a plan to start to consolidate more power in Washington, D.C., consolidate more power in the executive branch. If I'm president of the United States, it's my intention to make the federal government smaller by returning to the states those resources and programs that are rightfully theirs under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. That means all Obamacare funding, all housing funding, all HHS funding. All of it goes back to the states. We'll shut down the Federal Department of Education. We'll allow states to innovate. We're going to revive federalism in America, and states are going to help bring America back.
May I remind everyone to keep within their time frame so that we can get as many questions in as possible. This question for Governor DeSantis. Over 26 million Americans don't have insurance coverage. Governor DeSantis, 2.5 million of them are in your state. That's worse than the national average. Can Americans trust you on this?
Well, I think this is a symptom of our overall economic decline. Everything has gotten more expensive. You see insurance rates are going through the roof. People that are going to get groceries. I spoke with a woman in Iowa, and she said, you know, for the first time in my life, I'm having to take things out of my grocery cart when I get to the checkout line because the total goes up so quickly. So this is very real, and people are hurting out there. So we've got to address the underlying problem with Bidenomics, the overspending, taking all Biden's rules and regulations. I'm going to throw them in the trash can on day one. You're not going to have to worry about that. We're going to open up all of our energy. We will be energy dominant in this country. That will lower your gas prices. And what we need to do with healthcare is recognize our healthcare is putting patients at the back of the bus. We have big pharma, big insurance, and big government, and we need to tackle that and have more power for the people and the doctor-patient relationship.
Why is your record in Florida on insurance worse than the national average?
Our state's a dynamic state. We've got a lot of folks that come. Of course, we've had a population boom. We also don't have a lot of welfare benefits in Florida. You know, we're basically say this is a field of dreams. You can do well in the state, but we're not going to be like California and have massive numbers of people on government programs without work requirements. We believe you work and you got to do that. And so that goes for all the welfare benefits. And you know what that's done, Stuart? Our unemployment rate is the lowest amongst any big state. We have the highest GDP growth amongst any big state. And even CNBC, no fan of mine, ranked Florida the #1 economy in America.
We're moving on.
I'd probably not over Texas.
Haley, healthcare is the leading cause of bankruptcy for American families, accounting for 2/3
not even
of
close
all
there, Ron.
personal
Florida's
bankruptcies.
13th in unemployment.
As president, how you protect Americans who get sick from financial ruin?
First of all, how can we be the best country in the world and have the most expensive health care in the world? We have an issue. My mom was in the hospital, and when she was in the hospital, they tried to bring her a couple of Tylenol, and she said, I don't need it. And they said, honey, go ahead and take it because you're paying for it anyway. Why is it that when we got the bill, the insurance company in the hospital negotiated the bill for her without her having anything to do with it? When I am president, we will break all of it, from the insurance company to the hospitals to the doctor's offices to the PBMs to the pharmaceutical companies. We will make it all transparent, because when you do that, you will realize that's what the problem is. Second thing is you've got to deal with tort law. The doctors don't give you the 10 tests because they want to. It's because of the 90% chance they'll get sued. And then we need to bring competition back to healthcare, get rid of certificate of need systems, and make sure that they can compete. We have to put the patient in the driver's seat. They've been in the back seat for way too long. And once we give the patient the ability to decide their health care, deciding which plan they want, that is when we will see magic happen. But we're going to have to make every part of the industry open up and show us where their warts are, because they all have them, and we need to fix this on behalf of the American people.
That'll help tremendously.
Do you have a better way in 30 seconds?
Well, yes, we're not talking about the real problem ever. We talk about why do we have the most expensive health care in the world. It's because the federal government got involved the same way they did with EVs, and they said, we're going to subsidize a particular kind of software back in 2008 under Obama, and they said, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to make everyone more productive. All of you that are watching have been to a doctor's office when the doctor's got his back to you and their hands on a keyboard. The only industry in the world that's ever absorbed $1 trillion of IT and became less productive, they saw less patients per day, is U.S. healthcare, because they were subsidizing a certain kind of technology. It wasn't about improving healthcare. It was about picking winners and losers. Every time the federal government's involved, whether it's higher education, healthcare, or now the auto industry, things get more expensive and less competitive.
That was a great transition, because we are going to move on the future of education in America. What's the government's role in finding a way forward? The second Republican debate rolls on from Simi Valley.
Got it.
And informed patriotism is what we want. And are we doing a good enough job teaching our children what America is and what she represents in the long history of the world?
You gotta let Reagan finish. That's what his wife said. She said, if you don't let Ronnie finish, he's gonna be an unhappy camper.
He gets real for schnickety.
Man, I tell you what, dude, Nikki Haley is blowing me away.
Well, and once again, I think she and DeSantis are the most improved. And she was...
Over the first one? Oh.
Well, she was the most improved in the first debate, and the polls reflected that. Like I said, she's the only one that, because it depends on the poll, but she's the only one who's consistently increased in the rankings. I think she's at number 2 in that stage
You think she'll beat out Vivek?
She already has. As of right now, yes.
Yeah, because everybody like has started to go and search up Vivek's past, and
it's not just that. Vivek is eating his own feet. Like,
yeah, he's saying a lot of things that he's.
Well, but I
yes. Go on what you said earlier about Vivek saying what he said last time, and then did he shake his head no when Christie who was saying whatever it was, bought and paid for. The comment that somebody made about Vivek. Yeah, that he said.
Oh no, that was Tim Scott.
He said we were all good people.
Tim Scott's come to fight too, a little too much.
I know, but the thing is, what did Vivek do?
Vivek said that's not true.
Did he say that's not true, or did he just shake his head?
No, he said that's not true, and he shook his head, and I'm like, yes, it is.
He literally said everybody on this stage is bought and paid for it except for me.
Dude, like. It kills me how many politicians, and it's on both sides, but Democrats are worse about it right now.
They're all bought and paid for.
Well, no. That's not what I'm talking about. Is they will literally say, we never said that. It's like the internet exists and Google is free. Like, it was like Hillary Clinton, you know?
Rhino.
I don't know. Are you a Matt Gaetz fan?
Yeah. I like him.
I think he's fucking stupid. Not to mention, he's got like Satan eyebrows. You know what I'm saying?
He does got kind of a mean look.
He looks like the vampires from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's what he looks like.
Hey, it's our boy Kevin Sorbo, dude. I was literally watching freaking Hercules.
Hercules. Wow, man, he's getting old. Actually,
he's like,
I think
Aeolus.
You know what?
I know you're listening to me. You need to buy cabinets, and these cabinets must be made of gold. And that gold must be enshrined in diamond.
And that gold must be American gold.
What a name, Aeolus. You remember him, dude? He was so tiny, and he was like seemingly weak, but the dude was built.
A Patriot power solar? That ain't patriotic.
Oh man, Rumble, huh? Yeah, I have no problem with Rumble. I like what they stand for and this and that. So
it's just
and this and that.
It's just you can't compete with YouTube.
No, unfortunately not.
Now, if YouTube
there are people with tons of followers on there, but most of those people
they already had an audience. Yeah, it's time to break the shackles of big. Oh, it's a Rumble commercial. There you go.
Yeah, and next time we have a debate or something, we'll be a little more set up. And we'll be able to actually not have to get up.
But that's what I'm talking about. So Rumble, that's very smart. We were just talking about Rumble. Rumble has to get into other than a video platform to really compete, and they're doing just that.
I just wish they would, like, work on their development. Like, it's just not as friendly as YouTube.
It's also not as pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, no, it's not. But the thing is, though, they also can't be a freaking copy and paste.
No. But I mean,
have to be different.
It seems, for lack of a better word, it seems really blocky.
They are getting better. It has gotten a lot better because I remember a couple years ago I was watching something and I was like, I do not want to watch on this. I was like, there are 10 million ads every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, I mean, don't get me wrong. The platform has to make money.
And I don't know that they're quite to where they can offer a Rumble Premium yet to get rid of ads. I don't know if they're big. They might be big enough.
Oh, yeah.
Although Rumble Premium, which their cloud storage is in the beta.
I mean, if everybody on YouTube literally dual uploaded from YouTube to Rumble, like completely, everybody, I might make the switch. But
yeah, but they don't.
No,
they're not.
And I like my YouTube music.
And we're back. At least I think we're back. Yes.
Yeah.
In Presidential Library in the Air Force One Pavilion for the second Republican debate.
Can we talk about the venue and how awesome that looks?
Yeah.
American students, they are in academic trouble. They have lower scores in math and reading. There's chronic absenteeism. That's at record highs.
Chronic diarrhea.
This has even been called education homicide. You say school choice is the answer, but South Carolina, your home state, still has not enacted universal school choice, and even the current expansion won't be fully implemented until 2027. Parents can't wait 4 years for a fix. So what would you do right now?
Well, and school choice isn't the only answer, but I'll tell you it's not out of a lack of trying that we didn't try and get school choice in South Carolina. What I'll tell you, first of all, is we have to acknowledge the fact that 67% of our 8th graders are not proficient in reading or math. Over 80% of our 8th graders aren't proficient in history or civics. And recently they came out and said our 12 and 13-year-olds are scoring at the lowest levels they've been scoring in reading and math in decades. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to make sure we catch our kids back up. We have to make sure they can read. A child that can't read by 3rd grade is 4 times less likely to graduate high school. We need to do reading remediation. We need complete transparency in the classroom. No parent should ever wonder what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. We need to make sure that we have school choice so that there's competition. We need to move all the programs from the federal government down to the states and let states decide what education looks like in their states. And we need to start building things in America again. Let's put vocational classes back in our high schools, and let's get our kids building the things that we know that we can make. When we start to focus on that and really bring in that parental involvement, that's when we'll start to see a difference. But we've got to get parents back included. We've got to quit spending time on this DEI and CRT and instead focus on financial literacy, on digital literacy, and on making sure that our kids know what they need to do to have the jobs of the next generation.
On the subject of education, a question for Governor Christie. Students in your state are getting high marks on their report cards. But minorities are not doing well with math and reading. Black and Hispanic students averaging 29 points lower than white students in New Jersey. Would you address minorities first?
You have to address all students. And look, in our state, Stuart, frankly, before I was governor, that gap was close to 50%. And what we did was institute more charter schools and more Renaissance schools and more public school choice in New Jersey with innovative solutions in cities like Camden, where now we took what was the worst school districts in America during my time, and we have now increased that by nearly 40% in terms of their proficiency. It can be done when you give people choice. But let's tell the truth to everybody about what this is. This public school system is no longer run by the public. It is run by the teachers' unions in this country. Randy Weingarten and her crew are absolutely strangling. They are taking the worst of their members and defending them rather than advocating for our kids. And when you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there is no chance that you could take the stranglehold away from the teachers union every day. They have an advocate inside the White House every day for the worst of their teachers, not for our students to be the best they can be. A President of the United States has to take on the teachers union. I did it in New Jersey, and I will do it as President of the United States.
Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you. Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you.
Are you guys having trouble seeing me?
Florida's new Black History curriculum says, quote, slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. You have said slaves develop skills in spite of slavery, not because of it. But many are still hurt. For descendants of slaves, this is personal. What is your message to them?
So first of all, that's a hoax that was perpetrated by Kamala Harris. We are not going to be doing that. Second of all, that was written by descendants of slaves. These are great Black history scholars, so we need to stop playing these games. Here's the deal. Our country's education system is in decline because it's focused on indoctrination, denying parents' rights. Florida represents the revival of American education. We're ranked #1 in the nation in education by U.S. News and World Report. My wife and I, we have a 6-, 5-, and 3-year-old. This is personal to us. We didn't just talk about universal school choice. We enacted universal school choice. We didn't just talk about Parents' Bill of Rights. We enacted the Parents' Bill of Rights. We eliminated critical race theory, and we now have American civics and the Constitution in our schools in a really big way, just like President Reagan asked for in his farewell address back in 1989. Florida is showing how it's done. We're standing with parents, and our kids are benefiting.
Senator Scott, you oppose to these new standards. What is your message for Governor DeSantis?
There is not a redeeming quality in slavery. He and Kamala should have just taken the one sentence out. America has suffered because of slavery, but we've overcome that. We are the greatest nation on earth because we faced our demons in the mirror and made a decision. So often we think that all the issues, you talked about crime and education and healthcare, we always think that those issues go back to slavery. Here's the challenge, though. Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society, where they decided to put money, where they decided to take the black father out of the household to get a check in the mail, and you can now measure that in unemployment, in crime, in devastation. If you want to restore hope, you've got to restore the family, restore capitalism, and put Americans back at work together as one American family. Our nation continues to go in the right direction. It's why I can say I have been discriminated against, but America is not a racist country. Never, ever doubt who we are. We are the greatest country on God's green earth. And frankly, the city on the hill needs a brand new leader. And I'm asking for your vote.
I'm going to have a question for you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Over 10.7 million students in over 18,000 public schools nationwide have the ability to change their identity without parental notification. Governor Christie told Stewart last week that he would pass a federal law to protect parental rights. Would you try to do the same?
I have to be very clear about this. Transgenderism, especially in kids, is a mental health disorder. We have to acknowledge the truth of that for what it is. I met two young women early in this campaign.
On parental rights in schools.
Parents have the right to know. And you know what the hypocrisy of this is? Even New Hampshire failed to actually get past a piece of legislation here. The very people who say that this increases the risk of suicide are also the ones saying that parents don't have the right to know about that increased risk of suicide. And I'm sorry, it is not compassionate to affirm a kid's confusion. That is not compassion, that is cruelty. I met two young women, Chloe and Katie, early in this campaign, who are in their 20s, now regret getting double mastectomies and a hysterectomy. One of them will never have children. And the fact that we allowed that to happen in this country is barbaric. So I will ban genital mutilation or chemical castration under the age of 18, and parents have absolutely the right.
Would you try to pass a federal law that says parents should have that right?
We are going to require states absolutely have to follow that through.
Governor Burgum just to follow up on this, because you in your state, you do not have a law that says parents can't be notified, but you want to be president. Would you try to pass a federal law to say parents have that right?
I think this is a state's issue, but I do want to say something, because all night long we've been talking about issues about how it's broken in Washington, and I respect all of the people on the stage here for their 100+ years of public service. Thank you. But the reason why we're not talking about education or health care or safety being a problem in North Dakota is because we have a business leader. I've got more experience as a business leader than I think this whole group combined. I know I've created more jobs than everybody else on stage, thousands of high-paying jobs that have real meaning. So as a business leader, you come in and you treat the taxpayer like a customer. So in North Dakota, instead of fighting with the teachers' unions, we actually created a K-12 coordinating council. Everybody gets in the room and the customer is the student.
But you do understand that this is an issue that many people in America really are concerned about, worried about parents and notification in schools.
Yes, and that's why we have 50 platforms of innovation. That's why we have states. There are certain things the federal government is supposed to do. It's not the Department of Education. That needs to be assembled. We got to move it back to states. Do what we did in North Dakota. Instead of like, oh, here's a choice school and here's an old school, the old way with the teachers union, the kids are trapped. We made every school in North Dakota an innovation school. Every school got out from under the red tape, and the things that help teach the values that we're trying to get, like 4-H, like FFA, like Boy Scouts, they can get credit for all of that stuff. And by the way, North Dakota is now at the top of median SAT scores in the country right now.
I'm going to come.
The Department of Homeland Security warns that violence against LGBTQ+ people is on the rise and intensifying. According to a recent study, members of that community are 9 times more likely to be victims of violent hate crimes. As president, how would you protect this community from violent attacks and discrimination?
As President of the United States, I'll stand up for the safety and the civil liberties of every American from every background. And I want the American people to know that.
Will you?
But I want to answer the question as well, Dana, that you just asked Ed Burgum. Because by way of full disclosure, Chris, you mentioned the president's situation. My wife isn't a member of the teachers union, but I got to admit I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years. And
good for you.
For full disclosure. Look, education is a state of law.
Wrong.
The state of Indiana had one of the very first school choice programs in the country. And when I was governor of the state of Indiana, we doubled it. And as to your question, Dana, let's be very, very clear. When the Linn-Mar Community Schools in Iowa had a policy where you had to have a permission slip from your parents to get a Tylenol, but you could get a gender transition plan without notifying your parents, I weighed in with a foundation. That's not bad policy. That's crazy. We're going to stand up for the rights of parents, and we're going to pass a federal ban on transgender chemical or surgical surgery anywhere in the country. We've got to protect our kids from this radical gender ideology agenda, and we've got to empower parents at the state level with the ability to choose where their kids go to school, whether it's public, private, parochial, or homeschool. You empower parents, and our schools will straighten up and reflect our values and focus on the basics faster than you could possibly imagine.
Which we've talked about all that already. There's videos on our channel.
Can I just say one thing?
Everybody probably knows.
I know. I'm just.
If you talk over
in this day and age, you got to be specific.
I know.
China is investing heavily in their tech companies.
Yep.
$280 billion every year on semiconductor research and development. That is one CHIPS Act per year. Governor DeSantis, you say companies like Google and Meta have too much power. Doesn't going after them give China an edge?
No, I think you look at how our society's developed. They have huge amount of power over our society. They've cracked down on free speech. We're not saying you don't want them to do business, but you want it to be a free market. And right now they're monopolies. But this issue of China, I think, is really going to be fundamental. We have subcontracted out so much of our national needs to the CCP. We rely on them for a whole host of issues. We need to reshore and we need to decouple all those important industries. We need to get that back in the United States. They are our top geopolitical adversary by a country mile. Xi Jinping's got huge ambitions, not only in the Asia Pacific, but as you mentioned earlier, in our region. But ultimately, we've got to beat them on the economy. And so that's what we'll do as President of the United States.
Governor Christie, I wanted to follow up on this because 22% of American workers fear their jobs will be lost to a robot. And you said in the past that the free market is the way to go. Would you retrain workers who lose a job to artificial intelligence, and to do what?
Well, look, what I think artificial intelligence offers us is an extraordinary opportunity to expand well beyond the productivity that we have now, and to have Americans be able to be involved in that revolution, Dana. You know, each time we have shown incredible innovation and progress in this country. What we've done with it is to expand all kinds of new, even unthought of opportunities for folks. Yes, we have to do retraining for folks who lose some of their jobs, and we should be doing that. And we should have more training available both at the county college level and the local level for people to be able to access it. So yes, I would be in favor of that. But this is a much bigger issue than that. We can't be afraid of innovation. America has been the great innovator of this world over the last 250 years, a technological innovator, a manufacturing innovator, and a freedom and governmental innovator. And that's why America has to continue to stand strong in the world, pro-innovation, pro-progress. And I will tell you this, as President of the United States, what I will do is to make sure that every innovator in this country gets the government the hell off its back and out of its pocket so that it can innovate and bring great new inventions to our country that will make everybody's lives better.
Mr. Ramaswamy, TikTok is banned on government-issued devices because of its ties to the Chinese government. Yet you joined TikTok after dinner with boxer and influencer Jake Paul.
So I just want to say one thing about AI, which I like that Christie kind of brought up. Tech anxiety has been a thing since really technology has been a thing. You know, I was perusing the internet real quick to see what I could find, and I found an article talking about how this goes back to the 16th century. You know, literally, they thought the Gutenberg press it's going to put the scribes out a bit. It's going to take the jobs away from scribes. When the personal computer came out, I'm sure many people in secretarial positions, this is going to replace me. It does to a point, but what we've seen time and again is it just becomes a tool. So yes, some people are going to be phased out of the workforce, but what's going to happen more often than not is AI is just going to become another tool in people's toolbox to do their jobs, that kind of thing. So it's concerning, but it's not necessarily alarmist.
Should the commander-in-chief be so easily persuaded by an influencer?
So the answer is I have a radical idea for the Republican Party. We need to win elections. And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans where they are. So when I get into office, I've been very clear. Kids under the age of 16 should not be using addictive social media. We're only going to ever get to declaring independence from China, which I favor, if we actually win. So while the Democrats are running rampant, reaching the next generation 3-1, there's exactly one person in the Republican Party which talks a big game about reaching young people, and that's me. And let me level with all of you. I'm the new guy here, and so I know I have to earn your trust. What do you see? You see a young man who's in a bit of a hurry, maybe a little ambitious, bit of a know-it-all, it seems at times. I'm here to tell you, no, I don't know it all. I will listen. I will have the best people, the best and brightest in this country, whatever age they are, advising me. We will be probably many of the people on this stage included. That's how I built my companies. I want to be challenged. I want people who disagree with me. That's what makes America great, because we're not a perfect nation. We're founded on the pursuit of perfection. That's what makes America great.
Kick him in the shin.
That's why we will end it once we win this election.
Is that Pence?
I have to jump,
no, that's
I have to
Tim,
jump in here. I'm sorry.
There's one person
oh no, maybe
because
maybe
TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say, because I can't believe that here you've got a TikTok situation. What they're doing is these 150 million people are on TikTok. That means they can get your contacts, they can get your financial information, they can get your emails, they can get your text messages, they can get all of these things.
This is very important for our party. This is very important for our party, and I'm going to say
you've gone and you've helped China make medicines in China, not America. You're now wanting kids to go and get on the social media that's dangerous for all of us. You went and you were in business with the Chinese that gave Hunter Biden $5 million. We can't trust you. We can't trust you. We can't have TikTok in our kids' lives. We need to ban it.
Okay, except what she said was just insanely stupid, because she's acting like TikTok is the only social media company that takes your information. They all take your information. Here's the difference. What do you mean killing us?
We just lost 3 people.
Oh, we did not. Here's the difference, though. TikTok was the only... we watched the TikTok hearings. We saw what was going on there. TikTok was one of the few social media platforms where you could actually find videos of what was going on in Ukraine in the very beginning. It was one of the few places you could find videos of what was really going on in Israel.
And they also answered questions.
100%. Yep. So, TikTok is just like any other social media app. They're all stealing your information. So stop. Just stop. And plus, you're not going to ban it.
Collaborate and listen.
You have 15 seconds.
Don't worry, I have to pee, so I'll be quiet for
15 seconds, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Thank you. I think we would be better served as a Republican Party if we're not sitting here hurling personal insults and actually have a legitimate debate about policy following Reagan's 11th Commandment in his honor. And the answer is that is what actually makes our country strong. And I believe in these people. These are good people on the stage. They disagree, but let's have a legitimate disagreement. That's what I would say.
Stuart, can we get back to the question? The question is on technology.
No, we cannot.
Sir, we will have to cut your mic, and I don't want to do that. I don't. So, Governor DeSantis, let me go to you. Experts say President Putin has ordered assassinations across Europe, cheated on arms control treaties with the U.S., and seeks to work with China to force our decline. President Reagan believed that if you want to prevent a war, you better be prepared to fight one. Today, the Republican Party is at odds over aid to Ukraine. The price tag so far is $76 billion. But is it in our best interest to degrade Russia's military for less than 5% of what we pay annually on defense, especially when there are no U.S. soldiers in the fight?
It's in our interest to end this war, and that's what I will do as president. We are not going to have a blank check. We will not have U.S. troops, and we're going to make the Europeans do what they need to do. But they've sent money to pay bureaucrats' pensions and salaries and funding small businesses halfway around the world. Meanwhile, our own country is being invaded. We don't even have control of our own territory. We have got to defend the American people before we even worry about all these other things. And I watch these guys in Washington, D.C., and they don't care about the American people. They don't care about the fentanyl deaths. They don't care about the communities being overrun because of this border. They don't care about the Mexican drug cartels. So as Commander-in-Chief, I will defend this country's sovereignty.
But it's not a territorial dispute. It's never been a territorial dispute.
And 90% of the resources that we send over to Ukraine is guaranteed as a loan. It is not 90%. Of the money that we send over there is loan. Well, we can talk about this, but at the end of the day, 90% of the money that we send over there is actually in the form of a loan. It's not actually not be paid by Ukraine, it's paid by the NATO or NATO allies.
So I think it's a good topic.
I think it's a really good topic too, but I will say let's debate the fact that our national vital interest is in degrading the Russian military. By degrading the Russian military, we actually keep our homeland safer, we keep our troops at home, and we all understand Article 5 of NATO.
We have to level with the American people.
Does everybody else feel Tim Scott lowering in the polls right now?
So at the end of the day, I'm going to finish I'll be happy to debate this.
I'll respond.
I'll look forward to this one right now. So at the end of the day, when you think about the fact that if you want to keep American troops at home, attack on NATO territory would bring us and our troops in. By degrading the Russian military, we reduce, if not eliminate, an attack on NATO territory.
Finish that exchange. We have to level with the American people. We have to level with the American people on this issue. The reality is just because Putin is Putin's an evil dictator does not mean that Ukraine is good. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties.
A win
that has
for Russia is a
that
win
is not
for
true.
China.
We're driving
a win
Russia.
For Russia is a win for China.
Excuse me, if you have a chance.
I forgot you like China. That's why
you'll have your chance in just a moment.
Yeah.
The hurling personal insults isn't helping. China is the real enemy, and we're driving Russia further
Not when she
into
does,
China's
but when you
arms.
do it, it's fine.
We need a reasonable peace plan to end this, especially this is a country whose president just last week
Vivek,
was
if
hailing
you let
a Nazi in
Putin
his own
have
ranks.
Ukraine, that's a green light to China to take Taiwan.
We need a
peace comes through strength.
We need a reasonable plan to peace.
Governor Christie.
The Communist Party of China is the real enemy.
Governor Christie. President Biden's first 2 years have brought China, Russia, and Iran closer together. Are we focused too much on Ukraine and not enough on this threat from the New World Order?
No, they're all connected, Stuart. They're all connected. The Chinese are paying for the Russian war in Ukraine. The Iranians are supplying more sophisticated weapons, and so are the North Koreans now as well, with the encouragement of the Chinese. The naivete on this stage from some of these folks is extraordinary. Look, I understand people want to go and talk to Putin. Guess what? So did George W. Bush. So did Barack Obama. So did Donald Trump. And so did Joe Biden when he said a small invasion wouldn't be so bad. Every one of them has been wrong. And the fact of the matter is, we need to say right now that the Chinese-Russian alliance is something we have to fight against, and we are not going to solve it by going over and cuddling up to Vladimir Putin. Look, Donald Trump said Vladimir Putin was brilliant and a great leader. This is the person who is murdering people in his own country and now not having enough blood. He's now going to Ukraine to murder innocent civilians and kidnap 20,000 children. And let me tell you, if you think that's where it's going to stop, if we give him any of Ukraine, next will be Poland. This is a guy who said, this is a guy in 1991 who said that was the darkest moment in world history when the Soviet Union fell. Listen, everybody, he wants to put the old band back together, and only America can stop it. And when I'm president, we will.
Governor Burgum, I want to get to Governor Burgum. He hasn't had a chance. I have a question I think you're going to really like, or at least you have experience in it. And we need to talk about America's farmers because there is a foreign policy connection here. The U.S. and China are in this fierce economic competition. It's hurting American businesses, and there is blowback against American farmers because China then targets them in retaliation. How would you as president protect American farmers and ranchers from that kind of retaliation from a foreign government like China?
Well, first of all, we've got the best farmers and ranchers in the world right here in America.
No, we don't.
If they have a level playing field, they can outcompete anyone in the world. But this is part of the larger issue that we're talking about here, which is we're in a Cold War with China. The Biden administration won't admit that. But we're also in an economic war through what we're doing with agriculture and energy. And we're also in a war with them relative to cyber war. We get attacked every day in North Dakota, every state, every school district, our tribes, all being attacked every day by either China, Russia, Iran, or North Korea. And now we've got a Biden administration whose whole policy is appeasement. They're out there, creating the world, making it less safe. $6 billion they traded for 5 people. They've just now set a price on anyone's head who's a tourist from America, who's a student from America, for kidnapping. If you want more kidnapping, put a price on it. And then they're also helping Iran get to have more closer to nuclear weapon, which pushes all of the Middle East closer to China and Russia. The whole thing is absurd. And then, of course, we're going to give Ukraine to Russia, and then we're going to give Taiwan to China, and think that's a foreign policy. That will make our nation less successful, make us more poor, and at the core of all that is energy policy, because China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day. They're the largest import in the world, and we've had 4 cabinet members from the Biden administration there this summer, and none of them talked about U.S. energy. The first one to go to each of those countries was Kerry to talk about the folly of the climate policy, which is making the world less stable. It's empowering dictators. It's not about climate change that we need worried about. It's about the Biden climate policies that are actually the existential threat to America's future.
Thank you.
Governor Haley, Mexico's president called who supports sending U.S. military into the country, quote, scoundrels. Mexico is the United States' most important trade partner and border security. You say you will send special operations to attack the cartels in Mexico. This means boots on the ground, drone strikes.
It means special operations. It's how we deal with our terrorists. And what you need to do is understand that Mexico's not being a good partner if we lost 75,000 Americans last year. Mexico's not being a good partner if they're letting the cartels get away with what they're getting away with. What we will do is we will make sure that we send in our special operations, and we will take out the cartels, we'll take out their operations, we'll take out anything that's doing it. But we're going to go after China, because China is the one sending the fentanyl in the first place. And we will end all normal trade relations until China stops sending fentanyl. And then we'll do the special operations, and we'll get it from both sides. This is where President Trump went wrong. He focused on trade with China. He didn't focus on the fact that they were buying up our farmland. He didn't focus on the fact that they were killing Americans. He didn't focus on the fact that they were stealing $600 billion in intellectual property. He didn't focus on the fact that they put a spy base off our shores in Cuba. They didn't focus enough on the fact that all of our law enforcement drones in America are Chinese, and we've got all these little surveillance cells. We need to start focusing on what keeps Americans safe. That hasn't happened in a long time. As your president, I will make sure every American is safe, and we'll do whatever it takes to make that happen.
All right. I want to get to Senator Scott.
I don't know if I would vote for her per se, but
you're all auditioning for the job as President of the United States. You want to earn these votes.
You're auditioning for Vice President.
But the world's problems land in the Oval Office. During the presidential debates in the year 2000, neither Al Gore nor George W. Bush was asked about al-Qaeda.
To Trump.
Yet, just 1 year later, al-Qaeda's attack on September 11th claimed nearly 3,000 lives. And the farther we get from September 11th, the closer we are to September 10th. Senator Scott, you have no executive branch experience. What has prepared you to protect the nation from a major man-made national security crisis?
Well, one of the things I've had the good fortune of doing is serving on committees in the United States Senate, like the Senate Armed Services Committee. I'm on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, also on the Finance Committee and the Banking Committee. Talk about addressing the issue of fentanyl. I've written the legislation, passed it through the Banking Committee and the Senate, that would freeze the assets and sanction the accounts of the Mexican cartels. There are weapons that we have within the arsenal that I was able to get past 23-0 in the polarizing Senate as it is, I've also understood without question the fact that if you look at the details before 9/11, there was information and intelligence that was available that suggested an attack was coming. Having the right intelligence partners with us is key to making sure that we prevent the next 9/11 from ever happening. Having that experience for the last 10 years is really important in getting the job done.
Well, let's just make sure our government doesn't get involved.
Pence?
And it won't happen again.
Well, I think you asked a question about executive experience, and I think it's vitally important. And I stand before you today as a candidate for president because I think this country's in a lot of trouble.
No
you
shit.
hear the fire on the stage tonight.
This country
you hear
needs
the
Jesus.
fire in all of our voices, and it's because Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. This is a time for those of us that have the experience,
moral-wise,
the tested experience, and a commitment to the conservative agenda that Ronald Reagan brought forward in this party of a strong national defense, standing with our allies, standing up to our enemies, supporting limited government and traditional values, need to step forward.
Understood.
Because, frankly, our party does face a time for choosing, as I said at the top of this debate, whether we're going to stand on the foundation of that conservative agenda that Ronald Reagan poured, or whether we're going to follow the siren song of populism unmoored to conservative principles. I'm the most experienced, the most consistent conservative in this field, and I'm ready to lead America home and abroad on day one.
Time for choosing to go to a break. Ilya.
We need to go to a commercial break. Reagan built a coalition that lasted decades. Can any of these candidates do the same? We'll take that up when the debate continues.
Mute it and then do my thing real quick.
All right. So while he's doing that, first of all, I think a good idea for these debates, considering we called it during the presidentials, I think that if you go over your time, it gets taken away at the end.
Egregious.
So, talking about the Trump tariffs, because I can actually speak directly to this because the industry I'm in lived through it in real time. I was one of the few people that wasn't freaking out when that happened. I actually saw it for what it was, and it was a good thing. Because what Trump effectively did was so many industries took their manufacturing out of China into other countries. Let's be real. Most of it didn't come back to the United States. I didn't think it was going to, although some did.
I'd like to make a point real quick. Did you vote for Trump in either elections?
No.
Exactly. So continue. Because you know how people are on the internet. They're dumb because you're trying to give him credit.
Oh, I am. I'm totally giving him credit. But here's the thing, though. I even said when he was talking about doing the tariffs and everybody's like, oh, you can't do that. It's going to – no. What it's going to do is it's going to move manufacturing from China to other third world or emerging economies, one of which being Mexico. And I called that – I was so right on that. I said, wouldn't it be great – because I'm in the cabinet industry, just for people who don't know. And that's what happened. I'd say we were with a dozen manufacturers about half of them moved their manufacturing to Mexico. The rest of them moved them to what?
Look.
Oh, huh. Oh, take me off that angle. That looks terrible.
Yeah, that does look bad.
So,
I wasn't sure if we could do that still.
It looks super fat. But
we're on ads right now. Sorry, guys. Can't really skip through. Well, technically, we can skip through them. Because we are a little behind.
Well, but I got my spiel.
Oh, yeah. Keep going.
But anyway, about half the companies moved their manufacturing to Mexico, and it was so good. It actually resulted not immediately, but it resulted eventually in prices coming down for those particular brands. It makes sense.
Tariffs in China.
And like they spared no expense. They essentially built a city in this area of Mexico, which is just. It's not far from the Gulf because they bring it all over on boats. They save so much on shipping. It's ridiculous. Labor is a little bit more expensive, but it's not hugely expensive. So prices either stayed the same or eventually went down. And the best part, though, is lead times went down because it no longer takes 3 months for cargo to get from the plant, from the factory to here. It now takes about 3 weeks.
Jeez.
And I mean, they built this city, and people are getting jobs, and those particular areas it's improving all the time where they're building these factories. So, and it's like, we should be investing so much more in Mexico. I understand if it were a little bit safer, we'd probably do more of it, but I mean, but that's the key, and I'm with Nikki Haley on that part. Is like we do need to reclassify the cartels as terrorist organizations, because that's effectively what they are now. It's less. I mean, they're still organized crime, but it's less that and more terror.
I'm sorry, but when you're cutting people's heads off for
that's kind of the definition of a terrorist organization. They're doing a lot of the same things, just for different reasons. So yeah, I do think, because like I said, but I think part of the reason Mexico is not a particularly good partner, or at least not a consistent partner, a consistently good partner, is because there are so many corrupt officials that they either take bribes or they're legitimately scared. And I get it, because like, I'm sorry, but when these people say they're going to kill you and your family, they do.
And they will.
And yeah, so I get it. So let the
They don't make empty promises.
No, so let the U.S. military come in, fuck their shit.
You got it. You know, I want to point this out. Simi Valley, California, they're having this. That's why Trump didn't want to come.
Welcome back to the Republican primary debate.
Trump didn't want to come because he's scared of DeSantis.
To cover and a lot more questions to go. So let's dive right back in. We're here in California, where gas is nearing $6 a gallon. Oil is close to $100 a barrel.
I'll tell you why on the next commercial break.
Drill, baby, drill. But the courts won't let you. Mr. Ramaswamy, how would you bring down prices without immediate drilling?
Well, look, I think that we do have to run through the courts and get through that administrative state to make sure we're using the natural resources here at home. But here's the other thing that we can do that's easy, and it addresses the national debt as well as brings down prices. Put people back to work. We are using taxpayer money to pay people more to stay at home than to go to work. That is wrong. That contributes to our supply chain crisis. It contributes to inflation. That's the easiest way to unlock this economy. And here's the other thing. We have to put the Federal Reserve back in its place. This is an agency that has gone rogue. So in January 2026, when I have the opportunity as their next commander-in-chief, we will have a new chairman of the Federal Reserve who places priority on dollar stability, and then most importantly, send packing 75% of the administrative state, reduce the federal employee headcount by 75%, rescind 50% of unconstitutional federal regulations that are shackling businesses, both large and small. I've offered a very clear, practical plan to do it. That's how we unleash the economy. That's how we revive the integrity of a three-branch constitutional republic, rather than this technocracy and aristocracy in the administrative state.
Response, please.
Indiana's trying to demonize CBD. Like, really?
I think one of the signature accomplishments of our administration was in just a few short years, we achieved energy independence. We became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 75 years.
I think you were just there.
On
I
day
don't think
one,
you did it.
Joe Biden declared a war on energy, which was no surprise, because when Joe Biden ran for president, he said he was going to end fossil fuels. And they've been working overtime to do that ever since. If I'm president of the United States, we're going to open up federal lands. We're going to unleash American energy. We're going to have an all-of-the-above energy strategy. And I have a plan that actually would not only reclaim energy independence, but in 2006, America lost our position as the leading energy producer on Earth. I believe in the next 10 years, with the right policies and an experienced leadership in the White House, we can reclaim our role as the leading energy producer on Earth, and that'll grow the American economy for generations to come.
Governor Haley, reaction to that, please.
As the only person who's leading an energy state, could I answer the energy question?
No, Governor Haley.
So, you know, the first thing I'll say is what I saw at the United Nations is energy security is national security. We need a president that understands we have to partner with our producers and make sure that we have their backs. What you don't need is a president who is against energy independence. Ron DeSantis is against fracking. He's against drilling. He's been against, you did it. He always talks about what happens on day one. You better watch out, because what happens on day two is when you're in trouble. Day two in Florida, you banned fracking, you banned offshore drilling, you did it on federal lands, and you took green subsidies that you didn't have to take.
Governor DeSantis, you were mentioned. You have the right to respond. 30 seconds.
Yeah. I just did a plan out in West Texas for American energy dominance. We're going to choose Midland over Moscow. We're going to choose the Marcellus over the mullahs, and we're going to choose Bakken over Beijing, and we are going to lower your gas prices. We are going to get that job done because it's important for our national security, it's important for jobs, and that's one of the best ways to drive down inflation.
You just use this
Governor DeSantis. Governor DeSantis, this question is for you.
Our voters enacted a constitutional amendment.
You banned it before they voted.
No, it's not true.
You banned it before they voted, and not only that, they didn't vote on fracking.
She's totally wrong. They voted it in. That's what we did. Onshore, we do it in Florida. We don't have as much as maybe West Texas, but we do it. But that was a constitution. So that's just wrong. And let's just get real here. My plan will get the job done. We are going to be energy dominant, and that's what's going to happen.
The voters didn't even vote on fracking. You banned
We
fracking.
are moving on with this question for Governor DeSantis. Governor, excuse me, we cannot talk over each other. We must respect each other's time. My apologies for that.
I'm ready, Stuart.
Governor DeSantis, this is your question. The Biden administration is hell-bent on student loan forgiveness, but you say colleges should be on the hook when graduates cannot pay their debt.
Damn right.
How does that address the cost of college? The cost of college itself?
Because the colleges are going to have to make a decision. Do we expand the gender studies department, knowing some of those graduates may not have great learning opportunities? No, they're going to focus on the things that really matter. They're going to make different choices. They're going to try to graduate people in 4 years. I also just want to come back to something Dana asked last segment about 9/11, because I was just at the 9/11 memorial with the families. My wife and I were invited. It's very touching to be there, and it affected my life because I ended up joining the military as a result of that. I had been a blue-collar kid, minimum wage in Dunedin, Florida. I ended up getting through Yale and Harvard Law School and somehow came out more conservative than when I went in, and that is not easy to do. Had a lot of opportunities to make money, but I wanted to serve, and I'll never forget coming back on the plane from Iraq, landing in Coronado, California, North Island, and feeling that breeze off the Pacific Ocean and say, you know what? I am lucky to have been born an American, and I think being able to serve, and I'll be the first president elected since 1988 who's actually served overseas in a war, I think that's going to help me as commander-in-chief to know how you see these issues and understand that there are real lives at stake for people that wear the uniform.
And we know that Governor Haley's husband is serving right now as well, and we thank him for that. Senator Scott, the national debt has nearly doubled in your time in office. The approval rate for Congress is at a mere 19%. If this were a business, you'd probably all be fired in Washington, but you're here tonight looking for a promotion. In 2013, Governor Haley hired you for the Senate. I'd like you to tell her why you should be promoted to CEO of the nation instead of her.
Certainly. One of the things I'd say is if you look at our national debt of $33 trillion,
She's ready
I would love to have an opportunity to have this country pass a balanced budget amendment. That would constrain the spending in Washington in the same fashion that it does in every state in our nation, number one. Number two, if you want to actually reduce our national debt, you have to grow our economy. In order to grow our economy, you need to create about 10 million jobs to grow our economy at 5%. You can do that in three specific sectors. Number one, the energy sector. We could create between 3 and 3.5 million jobs if we unleashed all of our energy resources. America is we're the richest country if you combine coal, gas, and oil. Why not unleash all of our resources? Number two, we've lost 100,000 factories. 100,000 factories in the last 25 years. If we continued on my Made in America plan, we could bring jobs back to America in a similar fashion that we did when I wrote the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We actually lowered the corporate tax from 35% to 21%, reshored or repatriated $1.7 trillion. We brought the unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians to the lowest level in the history of the country, and a 70-year low for women.
Governor Haley, would you think you would deserve the promotion over him?
Look, I appreciate Tim. We've known each other a long time, but he's been there 12 years, and he hasn't done any of that. He hasn't. They've only given 4 budgets on time in 40 years. He was part of that. He increased the national debt. He voted for the spending.
You voted
he has
for
made sure that the
you
borders
actually
are open and
asked
they
for a
haven't done
gas
anything.
tax
Look at
increase
everything
in South Carolina.
12 years. Where have you been? Where
I voted no on all. I voted on
Take
all
away
things.
his closing
We've
statement.
waited and nothing has happened.
Here's what you've done.
Here's the thing that I just find interesting.
Ron, let me finish
All
this.
these guys have said
Here's the
things,
fact.
and I appreciate a lot of the things they're saying.
Nikki
I'm
Haley.
the only one up here who's gotten in the big fights and has delivered big victories for the people of Florida, and that's what it's all about. You can always talk, but when it gets hot in there, when they're shooting arrows at you, are you going to stand up for parents' rights, to keep the state free? Are you going to be able to do all those things? And in the state of Florida, because of our success, the Democratic Party lies in ruins. We have won the big fights. We have turned our state into a Republican state. People respond to leadership. I've done it while others have talked about it.
We actually have a CEO.
I don't know that the Democratic Party is lying in ruins.
If I may just briefly interject here, we need a zero-based budgeting. That's the way businesses are actually run. Start with zero as the baseline for the budget, and then see what's actually necessary. There isn't a blue state or a red state in this union that does it. The federal government doesn't
moderators
do it.
need
But
to take this
successful
back.
companies, including the ones that I've built as a CEO, will do it. And I think we need a CEO in the White House to get that done.
Governor Burgum runs a state that way. Yes,
tech
go
questions,
ahead.
you didn't ask the only guy that's been in tech. You have energy questions, you don't ask anything. But I'm just going to say right now, when you say nobody else has done it, the energy plans that have all been announced in the last month by these other folks on stage, we're already doing it in North Dakota. The border plans they're already talking about, we've got troops down at the border flying helicopter missions from North Dakota, from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop transnational criminal organizations from inflicting the invasion and the mass casualties in our state. And on the energy policy, we're already doing it. It's not saying when nobody else done the big fights. North Dakota was leading the charge. We won the battle to get the Biden administration was ignoring the law. They were the first administration since Truman that wasn't holding the quarterly required lease sales, and we won that in federal court. WOTUS, we won that in federal court. We're fighting the Biden administration on 20 fronts.
Hey, if
to say that nobody's fighting the big fights.
Hey man, if you got dots of color on you, that means you crossed the border
Energy,
illegally.
economy, national security. I've been talking about it since day one, and now finally we're having the conversation about it. But we've got the answer in North Dakota.
Governor Burgum, let's talk big government. This question's for you. Big government keeps getting bigger. 1/5 of all new jobs this year have been created by the government. Governor Burgum, you say you want to shrink the size of government. But it has been a century since any president has done that. Why would you be any different?
Because we've done it in North Dakota. When I took office, we shrunk the state budget general fund by 27% in the first 4 months I was office, and all the trains still running on time. Why? Because you had a business leader that was actually there. Inside of every government job, there's 10 or 20% of mind-numbing, soul-sucking work that even the state and federal employees don't want to do, and you can engineer that work out of the job. That would free up right there 20% of 2 million civilian employees. And by the way, we've got 10 million jobs open. They'd have plenty to do, and they could be generating taxes instead of being paid by taxes. This is totally possible to do it if you have somebody that understands, because having worked in technology for 30 years, everything we had to do was to be better, faster, and cheaper the next day. That's what we can do in government. That's what we're doing in North Dakota.
All right. Governor DeSantis, I want to ask you about something that I think is on a lot of Republicans' minds. This election could come down to less than 50,000 votes in 3 states. Abortion was on the ballot in 6 states in 2022. Republicans lost all of them. Next year, abortion will likely be on the ballot in Arizona. That is a must-win state. Governor DeSantis, how are you going to win over independent, pro-choice voters in Arizona?
Same way we did in Florida. We won the greatest Republican victory in a governor's race in the history of the state, over 1.5 million votes. We were winning places like Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach, that nobody thought was possible because we were leading with purpose and conviction. I reject this idea that pro-lifers are to blame for midterm defeats. I think there's other reasons for that. The former president, he's missing in action tonight. He's had a lot to say about that. He should be here explaining his comments to try to say that pro-life protections are somehow a terrible thing. I want him to look into the eyes and tell people who've been fighting this fight for a long time. My wife and I earlier today were at the gravesite of President and Mrs. Reagan, and I noticed that there was a quote where it says, "Every single person has purpose and worth." We're better off when everybody counts. And I think we should stand for what we believe in. I think we should hold the Democrats accountable for their extremism, supporting abortion all the way up until the moment of birth. That is infanticide, and that is wrong.
Let me ask Governor Christie.
It's a minority.
Governor Christie, do you think
the fact that they can?
No, it's really.
No, I mean it's a minority.
Republicans can do that in Arizona if this referendum is on the ballot.
That's
there.
still a minority.
Yeah, because I did it in New Jersey, Dana. You know, it's.
Then why are all these other states losing?
Well, because they don't have leaders in those states who are leading the fight the way it should be led. And in fact is, look, I was the governor here of the only blue state that's represented up here. This is where the fight is really tough for Republicans. And those are the states that we're going to have to try to win if we're going to win the White House back. And what we did was 14 times, Dana, in 8 years, I vetoed Planned Parenthood funding. 14 times. No one else gets it that much. The Democrats just kept sending it to me, and I kept saying no because I believe in life, but I also believe in states' rights. And I think we fought hard against Roe versus Wade for decades to say that states should make these decisions. So we're going to have those fights in the states. But what you need is a leader who can talk to people and make them understand that if you're pro-life, you have to be pro-life for the entire life, not just the 9 months in the womb. And we talked a lot about fentanyl tonight, and we haven't spoken one moment about treatment. But we need to make sure that for the drug-addicted 16-year-old on the floor of the county lockup, her life is precious too. And we need to be providing treatment to cure this as a disease that it is. If you're pro-life, you got to be pro-life for the entire life. We start talking like that, they're going to do what I did in the blue state, which was get reelected with 61% of the vote and won 70% of independents and 51% of Latinos because I told them the truth from my heart.
Well, and one of the first criticisms to pro-lifers is,
the latest Univision poll found that 73% of Latino voters think the Republican Party doesn't care about or is being hostile toward them, the Hispanic community. Only Governor DeSantis has translated his campaign into Spanish. How will you reach out to Latino voters?
Well, I promise you that we're going to continue to build bridges to every community in this country. And I'm incredibly proud of that tax cut and tax reform bill. I worked on Capitol Hill to help get that bill passed into law, the largest tax cut in American history. We saw literally the lowest unemployment ever recorded for Hispanic Americans, the lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans, 50-year low for women. So I think the President of the United States needs to be a champion for the American dream for every American. It begins with the unborn and the aged and the infirm, and it begins with every ethnic group in this country. And I promise you, if I'm President of the United States, I'll be a champion. I'll be a champion for the American dream, for Hispanic Americans and for every American. So help me God.
Senator Scott, reaction?
Yes, there's no doubt that if you lead by example, it's the best way to get the job done. If you look at my office in the Senate, my chief of staff is the only Hispanic female chief of staff in the Senate. I hired her because she was the best, highest qualified person we have. What we need are leaders who lead by example.
Way to not exploit her race, though.
I would love to finish my conversation with Nikki as it relates to the job that needs to get done. Nikki offered a 10-cent gas tax increase in South Carolina. Talk about someone who has never seen a federal dollar she doesn't like. 10 cents on the gallon in South Carolina. As the UN ambassador, you literally put $50,000 on curtains and a $15 million subsidized location. Next.
You got bad information. First of all, I fought the gas tax in South Carolina multiple times against the establishment.
Just go to YouTube.
Against the establishment.
Just go to YouTube.
You want to know what that 10 cent was? When they wouldn't pass the gas tax, the establishment and the companies wanted me to do it so much that I said the only way I will pass it if you will give us three.
All you have to do is go watch Nikki Haley on YouTube.
If you will give me 3 times the deduction in income tax, then I will look at your gas tax, which is why it didn't happen. Secondly, on the $50 million.
Here is a nice part.
Secondly, on the curtains, do your homework, Tim, because Obama bought those curtains.
Did you send them back?
It's in the press.
Did you send them back?
It's the State Department.
Did you send them back?
Did you send them back? You're the one that works in Congress.
Oh my gosh.
You get it
You
done.
hung them on your curtains.
They were there before I even showed up at the residence. You
are we really arguing about curtains right now?
Excuse me. You know I fought
Here's a fact. Here's a fact, though.
I
Look at Vivek. Can I talk, teacher? Me, pick me.
We do not intend to go ahead like this. In fact, we're about to take a commercial break. We'll have more of the second Republican debate live from the Reagan presidential library in just a few moments.
I'll tell you exactly why.
Oh yeah, okay.
But so first, I'm going to clarify. So there is a hint of truth to what she was saying about Ron DeSantis and fracking. However, the justification is
Nikki Haley.
Yeah, there's an amendment to the Florida Constitution that bans fracking to be used on new oil leases and offshore drilling. And the reason being is because Florida has many waterways that are they're ecosystems that are unique to the state of Florida. They don't exist anywhere else.
So an oil leak
would
be devastating to the ecosystem.
It would, but not just to Florida, because if everybody remembers when the BP oil spill happened, seafood prices skyrocketed. Tourism went down because there are ecosystems that are exclusive to the state of Florida, not to mention wildlife that is exclusive to only certain areas of the state of Florida. Now, what Ron has said on record is just because that's the case in Florida, because as he rightfully pointed out, there was a constitutional amendment that, as far as I can tell, happened before he was elected governor.
But just because, I'm sorry, you just stated that, and he could have done the same thing to her. If he would have explained,
well, I think he was trying.
Well, I know, but for the most part, it didn't seem like he was trying to answer her question like that.
No,
that's how these debates get lost, is because these people are more worried about
but it's because
arguing from this side rather than just saying, hey, it's because of this.
I'm not saying it's right, but I understand why he didn't say it that way, because then people will be like, oh, well, okay, I see it's okay for Florida, but not for... Yeah. It's like, yes, that's actually fucking true. There are things that will apply to certain states that don't apply elsewhere, you know? But anyway, so why Donald Trump is afraid of Ron DeSantis. Not just Ron DeSantis, but Ron DeSantis is the one he's the most afraid of, because Trump's going to get up there. He's going to say things like, well, Ron DeSantis, he kept Florida closed. And Ron would just be like, no, we were the first state to reopen. Next.
Should have closed in the first place, though.
Okay, but Trump didn't.
I'm sorry, but I know a lot of people disagree with me on this.
Hindsight is 2020.
Shut up. That's funny. But no, I wouldn't have closed anything down. I would be like, well, let's just keep everything the way it is and see how it goes.
But
if hospital, is actually get overrun and whatnot, and instead of people just you scaring the people and saying, oh, you're gonna catch this and you're gonna die. Of course, what's the first thing you're gonna do if you catch it? You're gonna run to the hospital.
Well, I agree.
It's gonna bring so many people to the hospital.
But we didn't know. But okay, so
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, fair point. Let's assume
fear of the unknown.
Okay,
sucks.
so there's a stalemate there between the two.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Then Trump is gonna come and then Trump's gonna say, well, you could have also, he's gonna criticize DeSantis on the heartbeat bill, which is not gonna do well on a Republican primary stage.
Hell no.
Then DeSantis,
I like that bill.
But then DeSantis is going to hit him with, it's like, oh, you want to talk about COVID. Why did you first of all, why didn't you fire Fauci? And second of all, why did you give him a presidential commendation before you left office?
He was asked that.
And he danced around the question.
Yeah. And it's like, it's true.
DeSantis has more things he can hit Trump with than.
It's like, for the most part, dude, I can literally, you all right? What are you doing?
Why does that look weird?
What? What the hell?
I don't know. I'm gonna check our. Oh, you got it up, don't you?
Hey, it's just because it's not zoomed over, scrolled over.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
You messing me up there for a second.
Oh, hey, man, I'm just making sure. But
that does look wild. Hey, look though, it's fine.
And then Ron can hit him with this. Ron can be like, Donald, you talk about how the election was rigged, blah, blah, blah. And he said, and I agree there was some fishy stuff going on, but explain to me how I won in my re-election. I won by 20 points, and in your re-election, you lost. Explain this to me.
Mail-in ballots.
Okay, but I'm just saying. But okay, so let's say mail-in ballots. Okay, show me the proof. Where's the proof?
Well, it's hard to have proof.
Why is that, Don?
Well,
and not only that,
it's because
not only that. Explain 2022. I won my re-election in 2022.
Every mail-in ballot should be confirmed.
Okay, I agree, but I'm just saying that's what DeSantis could argue. You know, he can be like, I won in 2022. Explain to me why all of your candidates lost. Every single one of them.
Final minutes. I could go another hour, but we only have a few minutes. And candidates, it's now obvious that if you all stay in the race, former President Donald Trump wins the nomination. None of you have indicated that you're dropping out. So
I literally know
which one of you
I have no idea
on stage
who any
tonight
Fox News people
should be
are.
voted off the island.
Kelly. Is Dana something?
Please use your marker to write your choice on the notepad in front of you. 15 seconds, starting now. Of the people on the stage, who should be? I'm absolutely serious.
With all due respect, I mean, we're here, like, you know, we're happy to debate, but I think that that's disrespectful to my fellow competitors.
Nobody wants to participate.
I agree with that.
What did she say?
Hold on. If I may, let me ask you something. Then if you won't answer that question, let me ask you this one.
Yeah.
What is your mathematical path, Governor DeSantis, in order to try to beat President Trump, who has a commanding and enduring lead in this race?
So polls don't elect presidents. Voters elect presidents. Right. And we're going to take the case to the people in these early states. We're going to do it in a state-by-state direction. And why? Because as Reagan said in his day, this is our time for choosing. We are not getting a mulligan on the 2024 election. Republicans have lost 3 straight elections in a row. We were supposed to have a red wave with inflation at 9%. It crashed and burned. Not in Florida, it didn't. We delivered it in Florida. And so we've got to choose right. We've got to win. And we need somebody that's going to be able to serve 2 terms. So in January of 2023, they'll be able to address the nation saying, we turned the economy around, we secured the border, and we fended off the threat from communist China. As your president, I will get that job done.
Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something. Governor Christie, I believe, excuse me, Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something on the card. Who was it?
No, but I'll certainly tell you.
Go.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I think I've been the only one on this stage who's been clear about this. I vote Donald Trump off the island right now. And the reason I vote him off the island,
any of the people on the stage,
you know what? Every person on this stage has shown the respect for Republican voters to come here to express their views honestly, candidly, and directly, and to take your questions honestly. I have respect for every man and woman on this stage because they've done it. Vivek, put your hand down for a second, would you? I still got time, dude. So chill out. Here, look. This guy has not only divided our party, he's divided families all over this country. He's divided friends all over this country. I've spoken to people, and I know everyone else has, who have sat at Thanksgiving dinner or at a birthday party and can't have a conversation anymore if they disagree with Donald Trump. He needs to be voted off the island, and he needs to be taken out of this process.
Can we get Vivek 15 seconds?
All right, you have 15 seconds, Vivek.
Look, I have a different view on this. I think Trump was an excellent president, but the America First agenda does not belong to one man. It does not belong to Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, the people of this country. And the question is, who's going to unite this country and take the America First agenda to the next level? When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, we did not just hunger for a single man.
Actually,
we hungered for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence. So yes, I will respect Donald Trump and his legacy because it's the right thing to do. But we will unite this country to take the America First agenda to the next level, and that will take a different generation to do it.
That does it. I repeat, that does it for the second Republican primary debate live from the Ronald
I think what they asked them to do was write down whether or not they would support Donald Trump. I missed it because we were talking, but I agree with what they said. It's like, listen, no, we're not going to do that. We're not even. I agree.
We'll have a little after party.
Yeah, it's over.
Hi, welcome to Hannity.
All right.
So, Vivek, put your hand down. That was great.
Hilarious.
That was funny. I was gonna say, don't exit out of it.
I gotta learn what I'm doing. There we go. Well, everybody.
That was
a fun one.
That was the Republican vice presidential debate.
That was definitely.
That was better than the first one.
It was still a letdown. It was actually kind of boring. They like, I don't know.
I disagree. I think
there
it was
some good
tremendous.
quips.
I think it was tremendously better.
Quips.
Better quips. But once again, most of them didn't fully answer questions.
Any of them?
Although I liked what I saw out of Ron DeSantis more. He's somebody's obviously coaching him to be more combative, which is what he needed. I'd say he and Nikki Haley are probably the most improved, and Haley, like I said, was the most improved of the first debate. So
she really shined tonight.
Yeah,
she really did.
Yep. So that's 2 debates in a row where I would consider not necessarily her being the winner, but certainly most improved. I think Vivek is probably the only one who's gone down. Maybe Tim Scott, because he was coming off as quite annoying.
So you don't think we're gonna have any Democratic debates?
No.
You think it's just gonna be Joe Biden against all these people?
Unless Joe Biden dies, yeah.
Okay, there's no way in hell with the state of the country and literally, what is it? Well, I can't remember what percentage of Americans are living like literally on the edge right now because of Joe Biden's policies. I think a Republican president, regardless of who it's going to be, it's going to happen.
I agree.
But it depends on who and how they're going to get things done. Because just like, what was it? We actually had a short on it about the abortion stance. And was it Nikki Haley? I was saying, like, we have to be realistic.
Yeah, she was.
60 votes, and all the idiots were literally saying, well, you can't have an anti-choice stance. And it's like, it's not an anti-choice stance. It's literally a common sense stance. Because you have to have everybody on your side. And if everybody, in certain areas vote for a Democrat and they're in Congress, guess what? Chances are they're not going to work with Republicans, and the Republicans aren't going to work with the Democrats. I mean, it's become so dumb and divisive in Congress, and that needs to be addressed. It's just a flipping headache.
Here's kind of a flip side. Put the tinfoil hat.
The tinfoil. Ugly.
The tinfoil hat on. No, the tinfoil hat on is. I'm thinking out loud here. You're the Democratic Party. Your current incumbent president won his previous election, so he's the winning team. Now let's assume that something happens that prohibits him from running. Whether it's I don't want to say it this way because I don't want it to be misconstrued that I wish death upon Joe Biden. I don't. So we'll say he's incapacitated, incapable, or unwilling to run. At that point, you're scrambling because you got to scramble a primary together. But let's think about it like this. What's the worst thing that happens for Democrats if a Republican gets elected?
More money in their pockets? I mean, like, why is everyone freaking out about that? Because, like, it's going to happen.
Well, but let's think about it this way. Your worst case scenario, if you're a hardcore blue blood Democrat, you have to tolerate 4 years of mean tweets, policies that you don't necessarily agree with, but
financial, essentially almost freedom.
Yeah,
not freedom.
And I mean policies that you may not agree.
Stability.
But policies that you don't necessarily agree with, but you only have to put up with them for 4 years. Now let's look at conversely. Worst case for Republicans is we have 4 more years of Bidenomics, 4 more years of the Biden administration in general, 4 more years of dealing with corruption in Ukraine and sending money to corruption in Ukraine, 4 more years of a president who didn't even bother to go to New York City on September 11th, didn't even bother to visit Hawaii in a timely manner. And when he did visit, he basically insulted the people by assuming they were so stupid that they wouldn't call him out on his bullshit.
Oh, about his story about, like, losing a wallet or something?
Or about how an attempt at, they almost lost a cat.
Like, what the
small
fuck,
house fire.
dude? It's like these people lost families and homes.
And, yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but, like,
I'm not.
all you blue voters, like, I never really had a problem before, but I'm like, you guys literally only voted for this freaking decrepit corpse just because you hated Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That was it. You could have voted for anybody else. You could have voted for who was it? Jo Jorgensen? I mean, she had a decent head on her shoulders, except for certain things that I don't need to get into.
Well, then here's the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was done.
So, but it was funny. I was talking to my mom on my way down here, actually, and I made kind of a side quip. I was like, shit, I'd vote for RFK before, hear me out.
Policies.
What policies?
Abortion.
Over economy?
Well, I mean, all I have to do is just vote for Republican if I want economy.
Valid.
Because at the end of the day, most Republicans are what? Business owners.
Oh yeah,
I'm not saying there aren't Democratic business owners.
I had no idea where you were going with that.
But most business owners in this country, I would say, are conservative. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna say Republican. I'll just say conservative because honestly, you can vote any which way.
You don't have to be conservative to be a Republican, but it helps.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I don't really consider.
No, actually, I think it gets in the way a lot, actually. Because I think a lot of particularly conservative Republicans, they choose the wrong hills to die on. And now the pro-life stance is one of those that is kind of inherently, you kind of have to die on that hill because it's present in the argument. But, things like LGBT, like now it's getting way out of hand. Don't get me wrong. But like I'm talking like back in the day, listen, if two guys want to, live together, get married, bone in the privacy of their own home, I really couldn't give a flying fuck less. I could not care less. When you involve children, that's a different story. But I think a lot of Republicans are failing to make the distinction.
Anyone just coming in, you can definitely scroll back to the beginning and watch the debate.
The actual debate, yes.
This is just commentary after the fact.
Yeah. But yeah, let's actually get back to the debate itself. So who would you consider the winner of this debate?
Well, it's
hard to say.
It's between Haley and DeSantis.
I'd consider them both co-winners of it because they both improved DeSantis. That's what I wanted more of from DeSantis.
Him to be more combative.
Well, and to just frankly stand up for himself because, a lot of people are slinging. I think he's probably
had a huge problem with conservatives.
Yeah, big time.
Time is to be loud.
But it's also not difficult. All you have to do is say, listen, that's not true, or you're not giving all the context.
Right.
Now, context isn't sexy. I get it. But at the end of the day, context is everything. That's why these debates suck. You don't have time. They did, I believe it was in 2016, they did a third-party debate, which was on C-SPAN, and that debate format was way better. It was way better. It was a longer debate.
You said 2016?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
It was a longer debate, but I think the candidates had like a minute and a half to answer questions, and then rebuttals were 30 seconds. But a funny thing happened, though, is because when you can speak with context, it became less about poking the other person.
You're good.
Yeah. It became less about poking the other people on the stage and more about explaining, listen, this is my policy idea. This is what my party represents. The rebuttals didn't happen that much. And it was a friendlier debate. And of course, that probably had something to do with the fact that realistically, nobody on that debate stage thought they had a snowball's chance in hell of winning. So you can be a little bit more civil, but
like the North Dakota governor.
He
had some good things to say this time. Like, it's just, I don't know. He just came out of nowhere. I have no idea who he is.
And last and least, Doug, why the fuck am I here, Burgum?
But I mean, at the end of the day, like he came out swinging.
Yeah.
He had some good things to say this time too. So
now again, a lot of these people are smart because I have to believe some of them are playing the long game. Because they might be just setting up for 2028.
That's exactly what Ron DeSantis was doing after. I mean, like almost right there towards the end, because he says you need a president who's able to have 2 terms. Did you catch that?
Yep.
So basically, what he was trying to say is, hey, I want to run in 2028 as well, and vote for me. Long game. That was actually pretty smart.
Well, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due when it comes to DeSantis. It's pretty obvious that he waited as long as he possibly could to decide whether or not he was going to run. And I think that's because he had a pretty strong bet, and it's a correct bet. In a head-to-head with Trump, without criminal indictments floating around, DeSantis would not win that race. I think he ultimately decided to run on the off chance that Trump is somehow
actually indicted
or somehow unable to run, because frankly, the Republican Party does need a backup plan in case the worst happens.
But does an indictment keep him from running?
An indictment, no. A conviction, maybe.
Okay. But the thing is, Jake, what has to happen for conviction?
He has to be found guilty.
There you go. So
I know. I'm
what's the track record of that right now? Of being found guilty and actually being charged something.
I don't understand the question.
What has Trump in the past been charged with?
Oh, okay, fair.
And actually been convicted.
Oh yeah, the record speaks for itself. But
now I'm not saying what the hell.
What?
Somebody's fucking with us.
How you mean?
They're unlike.
No, that thing. Yeah, I don't.
Concurrent viewers, but not likes. But anyway, so yeah. So, what were we saying?
Conviction rate for Trump.
Yeah. So conviction rate for Trump. How many indictments has he been?
I mean, a lot of them are still ongoing.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, if they were concrete, I'm just saying it's not that hard if you have evidence.
He still needs to go to court, though.
Yeah.
And they're still going through discovery and all that. Now the good news is now that Trump's lawyers now have subpoena power as well. So
they need to televise every single thing. If they did that, dude, it would get so many ratings, and it would content.
You know what? Here's why they need to do it, because it happened with the Kyle Rittenhouse case. I was talking to people who were talking about the case, and it was obvious they weren't watching it because they were saying things that just weren't true. And I could fight them on it because I was watching the case. And I'm like, no, you guys are so wrong. You're obviously not watching the case. We were watching that case like hawks, man. I think there was only one day I missed live testimony. And I went back and watched it later.
Impeachment?
No, of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
Oh, my bad. Jeez. It's been a long night.
But here's the thing. There's still people that think that Kyle Rittenhouse shot and killed black people. There's still people that think that.
Those are the same people that thought people were literally being transported by coyotes across the border. I mean, could you just imagine how fun that would be, though? Wait a minute. No, it wasn't a coyote. Was it a cheetah? Harold and Kumar go to White Castle.
Oh, my God.
Was it a cheetah that they ride?
Yeah, I think so.
It was, yeah, I think it was a cheetah. But, dude, that was so funny because I thought about that when they were talking about coyotes. Literally, coyotes, the creature, carrying people over the border.
Well, no. What they were saying is that they were saying that Trump was talking about literal coyotes, and they were making fun of him for it.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
But then people took it, and it's...
They howl at the moon, and then they just go. I can't do Trump.
Wrong.
Hey, they're coming across the border.
I'm going to come.
Did you like the short, by the way?
Oh, dude, at the end, I caught that. Like, at first, I didn't see all that, and then I watched it again. And then I caught that at the end. I was like, that was clever.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to train our viewers to watch things till the end, because I will often put little Easter eggs at the end of shorts and videos because you got to watch it. It's like I did the Mortal Kombat when we were talking about cast changes. At the very end, I have that when we were talking about why Lyndon Ashby didn't return for Johnny Cage. And it was like, why would he want to be in it if he's only in for 5 minutes? And then it cuts to the clip where he's like, good for the career, he said. You guys got to watch all of it. It's less than 60 seconds. Come on.
That's a problem with America.
That's a big problem with America is we've definitely lost our long-term memory.
Attention span.
But that's why I'm watching these
insanely low.
Well, but that's why I'm watching these debates, and I did it plenty of times where I'm like, that's wrong. That's incorrect. That's bullshit.
Actually, going back to the debate when they were talking about 8th grade readers and writing and arithmetic, math for any of you dummies. But they were literally talking about test scores being low, and I'm like, yeah, because they're too worried about, affirming genders and this and that instead of actually teaching what they're supposed to.
Well, that was an issue before that too.
And actually, there's something. You know, as a father myself, I have children in school. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old. My 7-year-old's in 2nd grade. So he's brought home this math booklet for 2nd grade math, whatever you want to call it, and literally, it's asking him to draw like these bundle of sticks to represent 100, and he's supposed to come up with like 867, and he's supposed to draw 8 bundles of these sticks, and then 67, and then underneath it, you're supposed to write out the question, like how we had to prove our work.
Yeah.
Like that. And I'm like, what the hell is the point of the picture? I was like, I get that it's like trying to like make them understand what they're doing, but at the same time, I'm like, you're confusing them with pictures. Like, not everything has to have pictures. Like, you know, that's a big misconception with books. I prefer books with words. I don't really like a whole bunch of pictures because the thing is, I have ADHD, so I'll get stuck on a picture for a freaking 5 minutes because I like them. They're pretty. But like, you know, with my kids, you know, like they have low attention because they're definitely ADHD. There's no getting around it. I have it, and I'm fairly certain they do. Not all kids learn the same, and that's where the school system's failing. And the thing is, when you know they're trying to force kids to sit down for 6.5, 7 hours a day, children are rambunctious and energy latent. They cannot sit down. Like, you know, you need to let them be kids, and that's where we kill their creativity.
Well, but not only, especially when very young kids, like
I almost started crying there. Did you hear that?
Well,
no, I was running out of breath.
It's well documented that particularly young children learn by, even adults learn by play, though.
My wife, she's a hands-on learner. I'm not. I can learn either way. I can learn hands-on, or I can learn with a book. Instructions, whatever you want to call it.
Well, but particularly with practical skills. So, good example. I learned to type before we learned to type in school because I had a handy program called Mario Teaches Typing. I played it for Mario, but I learned to type because I wanted to do better at the Mario game.
Back in the day when they used what we liked to teach us.
But it was through play.
And it was also still teaching like what it was. Like they could have put hidden stuff in the game, you know, and we would have never known as kids. But like it wasn't evil then.
You must have bombed Tokyo.
You know, or
not
no.
Tokyo. You must have bombed Pearl Harbor.
You died of dysentery.
Hey man, Oregon Trail still slaps. That was a Chimpokemon episode of South Park reference, by the way.
Chimpokemon.
But I mean, I'm just off the top of my head, and I'm certainly no teacher. But it's like, think back. I want you to think to yourself. Think back of your favorite teachers you ever had. What kind of lessons did they teach you? Were they straight out of a book, regurgitated Ben Stein style, or did they, I don't know, stimulate your mind in different ways through, I don't know, games? Remember, you took Miss Shar's French class.
She was very good.
Soit there.
I just had no interest in French.
Right, but you remember that game, right?
No.
Soit there is how you learn vocabulary. She'd say a word, and she'd have a picture on the projector, and then she'd say a word, and you had to slap it with the swatter before the other team did.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that got very competitive, but our vocabulary was exceptional.
You know what? You know fucking what? That's the problem.
Quoi?
We have removed competition.
It's not just competition, it's play. But competition, like, you're right.
I'm just saying, like, I've noticed with my children, like, my son, he's all about inclusion. And he's only 7.
Yeah.
He's not for competition. Like, literally, we were playing Super Smash Brothers the other day on Nintendo 64, and I got the fan. And I'll be honest. I didn't go easy on them. I was messing them up with the fan. And the things out of his mouth was like, it's okay. It's just a game. It's just a game. I'll come in second. And I'm just like, no. Strive for first. You know, if you ain't first, you're last, Bobby. Ricky Bobby.
Mom, going fast.
But you know, it's like I don't get that. It's just weird.
Well, because it creates compliance.
I know, and I get it, but I'm just like, I am not wired that way.
That's a problem, though. That's what I'm saying.
I'm trying to nip it in the butt. Like, I don't want to, like, indoctrinate him. I want him to have his own thoughts and feelings on everything. But at the same time, I also don't want to let someone else.
But you also you do away with indoctrination because for real here, if you have even a reasonably healthy relationship with your parents, you were indoctrinated to a certain degree. The key is parents that don't want to indoctrinate, they just expose children to all sorts of different possibilities, particularly when they're young, because they're not old enough to make those decisions yet. But what you're not doing is, like, you'd be playing the video game. It's like, no, man, you got to try to win, because if you're not trying to win, there's no point in doing this.
Oh, I've said that. And
yeah.
He's just like, no, it's not. And I'm just like, yeah, it is. I was like, the purpose of this game, the purpose of any game you play
is to win. Now,
it's not to just participate.
It doesn't mean you can't have fun if you don't win, but your goal is to win.
Because
now,
it's even more fun.
Well, it's like, okay, so here's a good example. You know, college football, college sports in general, but I follow college football, so that's the example I'm going to use.
College basketball.
Okay, same difference. There are matchups where one team just statistically does not stand a chance. Did they not play? No, they're still going to go out there, because even if they don't win, they might have a really good and I've seen it happen before. They might win. But if nothing else, they have some dynamic plays, and they show the other team, it's like, listen, you may win, but you're not going to shut us out. You know? But if they had that separate mentality, they'd just be like, oh, well, it's okay. We're just going to, go out. It's like, no, that's the whole point of games and sports, is to win.
Did you ever watch Don't Look Up? With
yeah. We did a.
Did we review it?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, like, okay. Anyway.
Which you can see on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's why I brought that up. No, so you sounded just like the billionaire tech. You know what I'm saying? Oh no! Remember when that little girl asked if she could keep the phone? He's like, oh no.
Which, I completely forgot, because we got a late start. I forgot to tell you about the sponsor of tonight's podcast. Oh, yeah. Speaking of winning, we are. Because the Arte Podcast Network is growing, and it's going to be growing even more very soon. But those are announcements for later. But if you have strong opinions on anything, or even just want to have fun with a podcast hobby but don't know where to start, we can help you with that. For more information, you can visit artemedia.org, where you can see all the podcasts that are currently on the network. More updates will be coming soon. I forget how many we have now. I think it's six podcasts.
As well as shorts. Help, whatever you want to call it.
Well, basically, so if you want to join the podcast network, you get access to our private Discord server, where you can ask any and all questions you want and get information on the sponsorships that we have that you can incorporate into your podcast. You also get access to our hidden playlist that has tutorial videos on every aspect, including getting what's the word I'm looking for? Getting exposure.
Engagement.
Primarily through YouTube Shorts, and we walk you through the formula. Listen, there's a lot of right ways to do YouTube Shorts, but we found one that works for us. We walk you through how to do that.
You can go through our Shorts content and just look at, all the views on it. Like, obviously, we don't get very many views on the long form content yet, because we're not very known. But as for the Shorts content, like, we've got quite a bit of views rolling in. So if that's something you want to look into, hit us up.
Yep, and we can even help you with logo creation, naming the podcast, how to distribute it, how to record it, or do live like we do here. We can help you as much or as little as you want, and if nothing else, you get another distribution channel on our website, and you get a plethora of guests that you can invite on, because everybody in the podcast network would be more than happy to be a guest on your podcast if it would be appropriate.
You haven't told them the best part.
What's the best part?
It's absolutely free.
It's absolutely free, and if you monetize, you keep all your own money.
Yeah, all we do is cross promotion.
That's all we want is cross promotion.
Because if you have a large network of people cross promoting each other, what's going to happen? You're going to grow.
That's the goal anyway. So, if you'd like to start a podcast or are even curious about it, reach out to the Arte Podcast Network, artemedia.org. check it out.
You can also, if for some reason you don't go there, we have a business email.
We do?
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
Average Intelligence 317@gmail.com.
Oh, I did not know that. But you can also...
I didn't look at it for the longest time, remember?
Oh,
because
yeah.
we had a sponsor, and...
That's right, but
the thing is, they did respond back, and they were sketch.
Yeah. Butch, we can help you identify sketchy sponsors, because they're out
especially when they want you to buy something first, and then they say they'll reimburse you. And I immediately called their bullshit, and I was like, yeah, I don't think so. I was like, I'm not buying anything. I was like, a sponsorship is a sponsorship. I make a video, you give me things.
That's not how it works.
So,
but yeah, I think that's all my spiel. What did you think about the debate, America? How disappointed were you?
Please leave it in the comments. Or how disappointed were you that Trump wasn't there? Or did you agree there was no need for him to be there?
I would never say there's no need for him to be there.
With the shit show that it was, in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of them have some good things to say. I'm not saying they don't. Wrong. But Trump didn't need to be there.
Yes, he did.
No.
Okay.
The next one, if he's not there, I will have an issue. If there's going to be a next, there will be a next one.
There'll be a next one.
He needs to be at the next one, and if he's not at the next one, then we got issues.
Then it's a total bitch move.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, I can understand missing the first two because they're just like getting started. He had stuff already planned, and
he is leading in the polls.
He's leading in the polls, and then on top of that, he went to. Did he go to Pennsylvania tonight?
No, he went to Michigan.
Michigan. Yeah.
With the UA, and then Biden went to Michigan after he found out Trump was going to be in Michigan.
It's hilarious, dude. Anywhere Trump goes, Biden's tailing it.
Except New York City on September 11th.
Yeah, you fucking pathetic piece of shit.
Like, I'm sorry, how he wasn't crucified in the media. Could you imagine if it had been reversed? If Trump was in Florida and Biden was in New York City? That's all you would have heard about all day.
You know, I'm not trying to say that, like, Trump didn't, like, go and do stuff. Like, he obviously went golfing a lot.
Sure.
And did like that. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, when you get down to it, the president's job, really not that difficult.
Well, my favorite thing, though, is every time there's a fucking election cycle.
I can't say that. I'm sorry.
Everybody talks about, well, the president spent more time. It doesn't matter who's in office. Obama spent more time on vacation than he was in, and Trump spent more time on the golf course than he was in there. And then before that, Clinton spent more time touching women than which that was probably true.
Everybody whines and cries about that kind of stuff, and I'm just sitting here like, okay, so how was the economy? How was job growth?
Hey,
how was the GDP?
Frankly, if the economy was doing as well and all Trump did was play golf,
I wouldn't
four more years, brother.
I'm just saying, like, you know, if the country's running smoothly and the president has people in place that it's just working, who the fuck cares? Like, why do you fucking care what he's saying on a tweet? Like, I never understood that. And I was like, listen, if you don't like something, keep scrolling.
Or I don't know, get rid of Twitter. Since all the lefties are shitting on it anyway, ever since Elon bought it.
Dude, I see all kinds of shit I disagree with on YouTube. I see all kinds of shit I disagree. Do I sit there and comment back and forth? Yes. No, a couple times, but
I make the choice.
For the most part, I'll just leave one comment and maybe respond. But after that, it's over because halftime people just want to hear their own voices.
Well, and plus people don't actually watch or listen to the content, which that always floors me with our comments.
Oh my god!
How many people clearly didn't?
I'm like, dude, it's a 60-second video. How did you not watch the whole thing and then respond? Because like you could have saved yourself a comment. It's just hilarious. See, that's what we should have bitched about in the last episode. Was dumbass people who just don't. Yeah, but the thing is, we had some people come into our defense too. Did you see that?
Yeah.
There was a thread where these two guys were going back and forth, and I was enjoying it. I was reading every bit of it. I won't mention their names. You can find them on any of the shorts. Oh man. So that was fun.
That was fun.
Well, do you have any closing thoughts? It's getting pretty late.
Rutabagas are overrated. And
Rutabagas.
I don't know why you think Sonic sucks.
Oh, I don't think it sucks. I absolutely love their freaking chili cheese dogs.
Jaggers is better though, not gonna lie.
Oh, burger wise, yeah.
And
I've never had a Sonic burger, so.
And their tater tots are better. Sonic's tater tots are not bad, but Jaggers are better. They season them.
Jaggers is really good.
Right?
I will say that.
Jaggers is top notch.
Honestly, though, I can't really say who has my favorite burger, though. I'd probably say Five Guys.
Yeah,
Their burgers are really damn good.
You know what's funny, though? I go back and forth because sometimes, like...
We're in Indiana, FYI,
like,
people. We don't have In-N-Out.
Yeah, I've never had In-N-Out, although I would try it if I had.
Delicious.
I have too.
But I'm like, it's ground beef. How can it be even better?
Yeah,
I know.
I've been going through a Burger King kick lately, man.
Dude, that fake meat's pretty decent.
It's not fake meat. Oh my god.
Have you been seeing that shit?
Yes.
People are like, "Oh, it's National Cheeseburger Day. Don't eat meat. It's fake." And it's just like, I'm like, listen. The conspiracy theorist in me wants to agree, but at the same time, it's national. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. It was National Cheeseburger Day. They're gonna sell burgers cheap that day because they're gonna get a bunch of people in because of the stupid fucking holiday. It's not even a real holiday.
Because you're not gonna order just a cheeseburger.
Exactly. It's to get you in, to spend more money.
Duh.
To buy a McCrispy.
Duh.
Why'd they call them that?
McCrispy?
Yeah, why'd they end up calling them McCrispies? Like the big chicken sandwiches?
Yeah, McChicken was taken. It used to just be the crispy chicken sandwich, which honestly had a better ring to it.
McCrispy?
No, crispy chicken sandwich.
Yes. Okay. That's what I was going for. I was like McCrispy.
I would say it's in. What's this? It's in the name. It's a crispy chicken sandwich.
Right.
A McCrispy could be anything. It could be a McCrouton for all I know.
McCrispy could be a freaking hash brown.
Yeah.
That could be a code name for hash brown. McCrispy.
Yeah, but not now because now we know it's just a crispy chicken sandwich.
Well, and on top of that, they don't cook the hash browns enough. Sometimes you'll get a soggy one and it's just nasty. You're like, can you like throw this back down? You already took a bite, sir. I don't fucking care.
Just dump it in there.
You know, and that's another thing with fries. Listen, if it's not crispy enough, I don't care if you throw it back down in the oil. It's not gonna hurt me. You just have to let it cook for a little bit more than 45 to a minute, and the oil will come out of the fry instead of staying in the fry. I know what I'm talking about.
He cooks fries, or has cooked.
I'm not even a huge fan of French fries. It's funny.
Isn't it funny? I'm kind of the same way, especially as I get older.
I'd rather have a burger.
They're there though, so like I eat them, and it's kind of like this is.
I don't get. Do you generally buy meals when you buy out?
Generally, yeah.
I get like 1 or 2 sandwiches, and then that's all I get. And actually, half the time here lately, if I get doubles, there's a coupon for essentially buy one get one free. But it's like if you want to get down to it, it costs 2 for $3 for 2 McDoubles, which is a good deal.
No,
I get no buns.
Remind me, are there 5 people watching us right now?
Yeah.
Missed the debate.
No, it's okay though. Dude,
yeah, I know.
At one point, we had like 7
That's
or
true,
8.
but I think this is another video that will get a lot more traction after the fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember after the debate this last time, I was literally searching up and even watching more videos too, and just going back and reminiscing and be like, yeah, that was a good one.
I'm actually just going to check real quick and see what our last debate, which we didn't do it live last time. But
oh, that's right.
Let's see. Where's that? It's 110 views. That's not terrible. Certainly not the worst one we've done.
No, but for 110 views for just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and yet my solo special about the Biden impeachment, which I thought
sucked.
I didn't think it was good.
What'd you get?
41.
And see, listen, like people on YouTube do not like just keep going. Like if you just do a video or 2 a week, you know, and then like do shorts, you'll continue to grow.
Yeah.
You know, you may grow slowly. Like we can't afford to put in a whole bunch of time, unfortunately, because of jobs and life.
And you'll get frustrated because the most random shit will go viral.
Yeah. Oh my god.
It's like you'll put a ton of work into one, and you'll be super proud of it.
We had 3 Spider-Man shorts go absolutely viral with.
Which, to be fair,
aren't they all 3 over 500,000?
2 of them are. I think one is trailing, but it's still.
Yeah.
I think it's at like 300,000. But now, to be fair, I did put a lot of work into those. I was very proud of them. But we've had some take off that were like, really that? Like your DoorDash video was.
Yeah. I literally posted
which I'm not complaining, but
I posted a picture of a DoorDash that I received, and I didn't accept it, but it was literally like 12.3 miles for like $3.75, and I was like, nah, Top Dasher can take that. Oh no, I cherry pick. I am not taking food for you freaking miserable people. I'm gonna come.
Gonna cry?
I am.
Alrighty, I think we should close her out, though.
Yeah, end on a high note. This was a good one.
Even
though we didn't do much of the work.
Thank you for enjoying the Average Intelligence Podcast. Like always, please like, share, and subscribe.
He's an idiot.
And kill Ron DeSantis.
Whoa. YouTube is going to get you.
No, because I said kill Ron DeSantis. YouTube's going to love that shit.
No, they don't take kindly to threats.
It's against a Republican. It's fine.
Yeah, I know.
It's also not real.
Yeah.
That was Mickey Mouse possessing me. Oh, you said end on a high note. So. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you prefer to listen to the podcast, fuck you. No, you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google.
Apple Pie.
Google Podcasts.
Mimicking American Pie.
Podcast Addict. Spotify, Amazon.
This is where we lose viewers.
It's all right. It's at the end. And all those other audio streaming platforms.
It's a late one, and yes, this is where we're going to end it. We appreciate you guys hanging out. All the people who dropped in for a little bit, we appreciate your non-comments. Just kidding. Leave comments, man. They help push the algorithm because YouTube hates people who aren't us. We try, but I digress. Thanks for hanging out, and have a good night. Lead us.
I'm going to come.